Chapter 1936. Yukurson opened her gadget and a screen appeared in the sky. The screen shook and the scene retreated. It was obvious that the photographer was fleeing. Suddenly blood spurted out and the screen fell. The final scene was of Yu Weep coughing up blood and his eyes were lifeless. Yukurson stared at the screen. For a mother, watching her son's tragic death was extremely stressful, but she had watched it so many times that she could still face it calmly. The screen disappeared and Hui Santong took the gadget from Yukurson again. Elder Yu, do you know where that is? Luyin asked. Yukurson shook her head. I don't know. I can't tell from the image. Luyin gestured for Yukurson to be cut off and then looked at Elder Yu. Elder, have you told Elder Yu about Anshui planet? Elder Yu shook his head. No. After I found out about Yu Weep's death I went to Anshui planet, but it was very normal. I stayed there for half a year and didn't discover anything. Don't you think that the space around Anshui planet is very similar to the one captured by Yu Weep? It's not similar. It's there to begin with. Then why didn't you tell Elder Yu? There's no need. Even I couldn't detect anything strange, so what's the point of others going there? Elder Yu sighed. There were too many cruisers in the universe and they couldn't find the culprit in Yu Weep's death. There weren't even any traces of battle, so it was impossible to find the enemy. Anshui planet was indeed a very ordinary planet. This was also why it could hide the Eternal Kingdom. Alliance Master Lu, you've mentioned Anshui planet time and time again and you suddenly stood up when you heard its name. Do you care about this place? Silao asked. Lu Yin cautiously replied, please dismiss your attendants. Do not spread what I'm about to say, or you will be judged by the Interstellar Tribunal. Mu Tianlun was shocked. Lu Yin was a director, and while he could influence the Interstellar Tribunal, he couldn't directly decide who should be judged. Only the board of directors had the right to decide. Since he dared to say such a thing, it meant that this matter was indeed very important. It was important enough to directly skip the board of directors and let the Interstellar Tribunal decide. Hui Ji and the rest grew solemn and they waved their hands to dismiss everyone. Only the 7 courts family heads and Mu Tianluan could hear Lu Yin's words. Anshui planet is the Eternal Kingdom. Everyone's expression changed drastically. Eternal Kingdom? The Neo-Human Alliance's Eternal Kingdom? Hui Ji was stunned. Lu Yin nodded. That's right. The Eternal Kingdom is located in a parallel universe, and the first thing I saw after I came out was planet Anshui. That place has always been the headquarters of the Neo-Human Alliance, where the 7 sky gods are located. That's where I was captured and transformed by death energy. No one had expected to hear this news, and they all looked at Lu Yin with strange and puzzled expressions. Alliance Master Lu, since you know that planet Anshui is an eternal kingdom, why didn't you report it to the Hall of Honor? Mu Tianluan shouted. Lu Yin looked at him like he was an idiot. I'm not the one who knows. It was the head judge who told me. Mu Tianluan was stunned. Chief Judge. Hui Ji said solemnly, Alliance Master Lu, please explain yourself. Lu Yin will lead the Inquisitor to destroy eternity. Many people knew about this matter but they did not spread it. Mu Tianluan would know about it when he returned to the Judgment Great World, so there was no need to hide it. The Eternal Kingdom has been destroyed. Because it's located in a parallel universe, it will never be found. If you don't believe me, you can ask the head judge for confirmation, Lu Yin said. Everyone looked at each other with complicated expressions. They knew that the Neo-Human Alliance's headquarters was hidden in the Neoverse, but they had never imagined that it would be so close to them. Mu Tianluan thought even further. The Interstellar Arbitration Institute's operation should have been enough to destroy the Eternal Kingdom by himself. So why did he have to bring Lu Yin along? What was his relationship with Lu Yin? Hui Ji's eyes flashed. Since planet Anshui is the location of the Eternal Kingdom's parallel universe, does that mean that Hidden Weep was referring to the Scourge? Lu Yin replied, that's very likely. If Hidden Weep betrayed humanity, then why did he mention planet Anshui to Elder Yu? Isn't he afraid that Elder Yu would tell the Yu family that they would send people to target planet Anshui? He couldn't have predicted that Elder Yu wouldn't say anything, and he definitely wouldn't have cooperated with the Neo-Human Alliance to put on a show of death. The reason why he died, no, he faked his death, is very likely because the Neo-Human Alliance used some method to control him and make him join the burial garden. If this speculation is true, then Hidden Weep didn't betray humanity on his own accord. Of course, there's also another possibility. She might have predicted that Elder Yu wouldn't say anything, or that Elder Yu wouldn't be able to discover anything on Anshui planet. As for why she would do this, Lu Yin shrugged. It's meaningless. Everyone looked at Yu Kurson. Indeed, it was meaningless. What was Hidden Weep's goal in using planet Anshui to lure Elder Yu over? It was completely meaningless. If he had betrayed humanity, then there was no need to lure Elder Yu over. The most likely reason for this was that Hidden Weep had discovered the secret of planet Anshui and wanted to explore it on his own. Before leaving, he had accidentally mentioned it to Elder Yu. However, he had overestimated himself, and in the end he had been controlled by the Neo-Human Alliance and sent to the burial garden as a set of coordinates. Even Mu Tianluan found it hard to refute this. The Eternal Kingdom was the Neo-Human Alliance's headquarters, and it was their greatest secret. There was no need to use the Eternal Kingdom as bait. Was it just Elder Yu? Or the Yu family? It was meaningless. When Elder Yu had mentioned planet Anshui, Lu Yin had already known that the possibility of Hidden Weep's betrayal was not high. Mu Tianluan said, Alliance Master Lu, even if your explanation makes sense, as long as there's even the slightest possibility, we cannot rashly confirm that the Yu family did not collude with the Neo-Human Alliance. Of course. Lu Yin looked at Mu Tianluan. After all, it's a fact that Hidden Weep has become a set of coordinates for the Neo-Human Alliance. Perhaps he really did betray humanity and collude with the Neo-Human Alliance, but he didn't know about the secret of planet Anshui. Everything was just a coincidence, even if it was a very small one. Mu Tianluan's expression turned ugly and he fell silent. Huizhi asked, Alliance Master Lu, in your opinion, how should we handle this joint trial? Lu Yin muttered to himself for a moment. Everyone, if our guesses are correct, then not only did Hidden Weep not betray humanity, but he also contributed to the eradication of the Neo-Human Alliance. His death was for the sake of humanity, and based on this point of view, we will not make any malicious guesses about the results of this joint trial. In other words, we believe that the Yu family did not collude with the Neo-Human Alliance. Mu Tianluan was about to speak. Lu Yin continued, Of course we can't completely deny this conjecture. The investigation of the Yu family will continue, but the method of investigation and trial will have to be changed. At the very least, they will be given the most basic respect. I agree with Alliance Master Lu's decision. Huizhi was the first to speak. I agree as well, Kupu said. Xia Hua, Silao and Yen both agreed. Lu Yin looked at Xia Yi. I agree, Xia Yi said in a low voice. Even though he was hostile towards Lu Yin, the Yu family was still part of the Seven Courts. They had already lost the Yu family, and if they lost the Yu family as well, the Seven Courts would only have 5 families left. From the Seven Courts' point of view, Xia Yi had to agree as well. Only Mu Tianluan was left, as he represented the Interstellar Court in overseeing this joint trial. If he did not agree, then the joint trial would continue, which would cause unnecessary trouble. Alliance Master Lu, are you saying that we should lower the intensity of the investigation of the Yu family? What if the Yu family runs away because of this? Mu Tianluan stared at Lu Yin. Lu Yin clasped his hands behind his back. Run away. Mu Tianluan's eyes narrowed. He wanted to force Lu Yin to express his opinion and link the Yu family to the Neo-Human Alliance. Lu Yin's lips curled up. What does that have to do with me? Everyone was stunned. Mu Tianluan's eyes widened. You're the one who proposed the joint trial. You can also propose one. If it's good, we'll agree as well. Lu Yin rolled his eyes. Mu Tianluan's face twitched. How could he propose such a thing under the gazes of the various leaders of the Seven Courts? Without Lu Yin, he could represent the Interstellar Court and propose a new joint trial until he was satisfied with the results. However, Lu Yin was here and he represented the board of directors. Even if Mu Tianluan objected to such a decision, it wouldn't be easy to redo the joint trial. At the same time, he would offend the entire Seven Courts. Although he was the head of the Interstellar Court and didn't fear the Seven Courts, there was no need to make an enemy out of them. I can agree with Alliance Master Lu's decision based on the results of this joint trial, but I will also report this to the head judge. If the Yu family escapes because of a lax investigation, you won't be able to avoid this responsibility, Mu Tianluan said in a low voice before leaving without waiting for Lu Yin's response. After Mu Tianluan left, Lu Yin looked at Huizhi. Although the possibility of the Yu family betraying humanity isn't high, we still have to keep an eye on them. No one can say for sure if it's a coincidence or if the Neo-Human Alliance has a deeper plan. Thus, we can't relax our surveillance of the Yu family. Huiji replied, we know that even if the Hall of Honor doesn't interfere, we will still make a decision regarding the Yu family. For at least 100 years, the Yu family will not be allowed to leave the 7 courts. Someone will be watching them at all times. Lu Yin nodded. The Neo-Human Alliance was the enemy of the entire human race. It wasn't just the Hall of Honor but the 7 courts as well. After all, they were all humans. When the final announcement of the joint trial ended, the Yu family members relaxed. Yu Kursen didn't understand, how had it ended so quickly? Furthermore, the results of the joint trial had been beneficial to the Yu family. Not only had she not been taken to the Arbiter realm for trial, but the Yu family had also not been excessively imprisoned. Aside from being restricted from leaving the 7 courts, the Yu family was no different from before. She guessed that such a thing shouldn't have happened unless there had been an unforeseen change in the joint trial. When she thought of this, she looked at Lu Yin. He was the only person who could have changed the outcome of the joint trial. Sister Yu, you have to thank Alliance Master Lu. If it weren't for him, your Yu family would have been in trouble, Xia Hua said with a smile. She then gave Lu Yin a charming look before leaving. Chapter 1937. Su Lao, Yen, Ku Pu and the others left one by one. Lu Yin had already told Ku Pu that he would stay in the Yu family and not go to the Spirit Void Land. Although the various family heads had left, nearly half of the people who had been monitoring the Yu family stayed behind. They were still monitoring the Yu family, but they weren't as strict as before. Huiji looked at Yu Kursen. I don't know why your Yu family intentionally split up in the first place, and I don't know whether or not your family has colluded with the Neo-Human Alliance. Take care of yourself. He nodded at Lu Yin and then left. After everyone else left, Yu Kursen looked at Lu Yin with a complicated expression. Thank you, Alliance Leader Lu. Behind Yu Kursen, a group of Yu family members bowed. Thank you, Alliance Leader Lu. Lu Yin raised a hand. There's no need to thank me. I was just stating the facts. If the Yu family betrayed the humans and colluded with the Neo-Human Alliance, then I will be the first to exterminate the Yu family. This made the Yu family members' expressions turn ugly, but it was the truth. The atmosphere fell silent. Elder Yu returned to the wooden boat and sang an unknown tune. Yu Kursen walked with Lu Yin along the Great Styx River. Alliance Leader Lu, did Yu Qian come looking for you? Yu Kursen asked. Yu Qian was Madame Yu, the head of the Serene Court. That's right. She invited me to the Yu family to give you a fair trial. Yu Kursen looked at the river and smiled bitterly. I never thought that she would be more outstanding than me even after leaving the Yu family. She was the one who saved the Yu family in the end. Wrong. He was the one who saved the Yu family. Of course, luck played a part as well, Lu Yin said. If he hadn't coincidentally confirmed the location of the Eternal Kingdom, then he wouldn't have known about the secret of planet Anshui. Naturally, he wouldn't have been able to help the Yu family escape so easily. Even though they were still imprisoned, as long as no evidence of the Yu family's collusion with the Neo-Human Alliance was found, they would return to normal sooner or later. The human domain's attitude towards the Neo-Human Alliance was just that decisive. No matter how great their background was, they couldn't escape trial. The Yu family hadn't been tried from the start because they were giving face to the 7 courts and also because Yu Qian had joined the burial garden and was considered dead. Otherwise, Yu Kursen would have been taken to the arbiters long ago. Alliance Master Lu, aren't you worried that all of this is just a coincidence? That Yu Qi is indeed a traitor or that she was controlled even earlier? Yu Kursen. To determine that the Yu family wasn't guilty just by guessing, no matter how many coincidences there were, it was still child's play. Lu Yin looked at the great sticks. Sometimes the truth isn't important. What's important is the outcome. He could rely on his guesses to determine that the Yu family was innocent, but he could also rely on his guesses to determine that Qing Shaohuang was guilty. What was the difference? It was his status, his power, and his will. As for whether or not there were still traitors within the Yu family, that would be left to the 7 courts and the Hall of Honor. Mu Tianluan wouldn't let go of this matter. All he wanted was to obtain a favor from the Yu family. However, there was one thing that was strange. Why wasn't the head judge's brother here? Only sent Mu Tianluan? Mu Tianluan alone wouldn't be able to distinguish the elders of the Yu family. The only person in the entire Yu family that couldn't be easily distinguished was Elder Yu. The head judge's senior brother hadn't come and Xiaji was in seclusion. Previously, everyone's attention had been drawn to Hidden Cry, and no one had suspected Elder Yu. After all, only Elder Yu knew whether Hidden Cry had mentioned Planet Anshui, and he was the one who had said it. If he was lying, everything would be overturned. The unknown tune was getting closer and closer, and Lu Yin looked at the Great Styx River. The wooden boat was approaching and Elder Yu was rowing. "We need to take the boat." "Yes." Lu Yin stared at Elder Yu for a while before smiling. "Yes," he said before jumping onto the boat. Yu Kursen was astonished, but she also boarded the boat and bowed to Elder Yu. "I'll be troubling you, Elder." Elder Yu chuckled and then sat at the bow of the boat rowing by himself. A small boat on the Great Styx River. If only Yu Kursen had been replaced by Yen, Lu Yin thought to himself. What price did Yu Qian pay Alliance Master Lu? She was able to invite Alliance Master Lu, Yu Kursen asked. She wasn't looking at Lu Yin but rather at the Great Styx River. Lu Yin replied, "What price does the Yu family think they can pay me? The entire Yu court belongs to the Great Eastern Alliance." Yu Kursen looked at Lu Yin. "That's why I'm curious. Did she give herself to Alliance Master Lu?" Lu Yin coughed and frowned at Yu Kursen. "That's not a funny joke." Yu Kursen smiled. "I hate Yu Qian." Lu Yin raised a brow. "She's always been more outstanding than me and she's always been a step ahead of me in everything. Even becoming the head of the Yu family was one step ahead of me. The position should have been hers but she gave it up. At that time I was grateful to her but I also hated her. When I found out that she took the Yu secret away, I didn't feel any gratitude towards her." Yu Kursen slowly explained some of the Yu family's history. "I am the head of the Yu family but the true head of the Yu family will always be Yu Qian. What is the Yu family without the Yu secret? Wherever the Yu secret is, the Yu family will be there. Yu Qian surpasses me and Yu Yer surpasses Yu Qin. I really hate Yu Qian and her mother. If it weren't for them, Yu Qi wouldn't have needed to prove himself. He's very outstanding, more outstanding than anyone else. It's precisely because he doesn't have the Yu secret that he keeps trying to prove that he's the true successor of the Yu family. Why did Yu Yer obtain the Yu secret? Why did Yu Qian take it away?" Lu Yin didn't know what to say as he looked at Yu Kursen's sorrowful face. Everything had a cause and he couldn't blame Yu Qian and her mother for Yu Qi's death. However, from Yu Kursen's perspective, who else could she blame? Without experiencing her past, Lu Yin wasn't qualified to comment. With a sigh, Elder Yu slowly sat down and placed a hand on Yu Kursen's heart. "Good child, you're no worse than anyone else." Yu Kursen wept loudly, releasing all of the pain and suppression that had accumulated over the years. As a woman she couldn't compare to Yu Qian, and as a mother she couldn't obtain the best inheritance for her children. As the head of the Yu family she couldn't decide the fate of the Yu family. She had watched her son die without even being able to find the murderer. Even if her son appeared again she wouldn't be able to recognize him. This pain was unbearable. Yu Kursen had endured too much and her life had been too painful. Elder Yu was helpless and he consoled her as if she were a child. Lu Yin felt a little awkward but he also sympathized with her. After a while Yu Kursen finally calmed down. "I'm sorry, Elder." Elder Yu shook his head. "Good child, someone has to be sacrificed in a family, and her sacrifice isn't any less than yours. At the very least your name is still on the family tree." Yu Kursen's body trembled and most of her hatred and disgust for Yu Qian melted away. There was no punishment more severe than having one's name removed from the family tree. Yu Qian had obtained everything but she had lost the Yu family. Elder Yu continued to row. Yu Kursen slowly bowed to Lu Yin. "I'm sorry, Alliance Leader Lu. I went overboard." Lu Yin raised a hand. "I'm fine. As long as you're happy." Yu Kursen smiled. "I feel much better. Alliance Leader Lu, I really want to know what price Yu Qian paid for you to help her." Lu Yin replied, "There's no price. The Yu secret is passed down to only one person and I can't obtain it. This secret technique is also related to one's bloodline, so it can't be passed down to anyone who isn't a member of the Yu family. The most precious thing to you is the Yu secret." "But I understand, Alliance Leader Lu. The Yu secret might be valuable to others, but it probably isn't attractive to you. What does Alliance Leader Lu want from my Yu family?" Yu Kursen stared at Lu Yin, regaining her composure and wisdom. Lu Yin leaned against the boat and said, "Everything about the Netherworld ancestor." The boat suddenly stopped. Yu Kursen looked at Lu Yin in shock. Elder Yu slowly turned around and looked at Lu Yin with a deep gaze. Lu Yin looked at Elder Yu. I'm very curious about the Netherworld ancestor. I know the secret of the Yu secret and the reason why the Yu family was separated. However, there's one thing that I didn't learn from Madame Yu and the others. The connection between the Undying Manual and the Netherworld ancestor. Yu Kursen did not understand. She did not know as much about the Yu secret as Madame Yu or Yu Yi. After all, she had not inherited the Yu secret. Elder Yu, on the other hand, was different. As the Yu family's elder Di Yun, Lu Yin guessed that he must have inherited the Yu secret before. His understanding of the Yu secret far surpassed Yu Yi's. This was also why Lu Yin had boarded the boat. Elder Yu put down the oars. So Alliance leader Lu is interested in the ancestor. Lu Yin solemnly replied, more accurately, I'm interested in the Undying Manual. Elder Yu shook his head. The Undying Manual? The legendary technique from the Starfall Sea that can grant immortality? What does that have to do with the ancestor? Lu Yin's eyes narrowed. Tinyo, you really don't know? Elder Yu replied, I really don't know. Lu Yin looked at the Great Styx River and fell into deep thought. The Starsabil sect's divination should have been correct, as they had divined that Undying Yushan was the Netherworld ancestor. Undying Yushan cultivated the Undying Manual, so this was the only possible connection between him and the Netherworld ancestor. Lu Yin could not think of anything else. Senior, how is the relationship between the Yu family and the Yu family? Lu Yin suddenly asked. Yu Kursen definitely did not know much, as the Yu family had long since broken away from the Seven Courts. Lu Yin could only ask Elder Yu. Elder Yu recalled, the Yu family? They're more or less the same. The Seven Courts have always worked together to protect progenitor Chen's tomb. Apart from that, they aren't very close. Has the Yu family come into contact with the Yu secret art? Lu Yin asked. Yu Kursen immediately answered, of course not. The Yu secret art is passed down to only one person, so how could the Yu family come into contact with it? Elder Yu looked at Lu Yin. I heard that you've learned the Yu family's Yu secret art and have a deep relationship with them. Now you're asking about the Yu family and the ancestor. Can you explain why? There's a person in the Yu family called Undying Yushan, and he cultivates the Undying Scripture. I once asked the Starsabil sect to perform a divination on him, but the result was that he was the progenitor of the Netherworld. Undying Yushan's divination ended up with the progenitor of the Netherworld, which is what I'm most curious about. Elder Yu and Yu Kursen exchanged glances. How is that possible? How could someone from the Yu family be related to the Yu family's ancestor? This is also what I'm curious about. Chapter 1938. Elder Yu also recognized the severity of the situation. If that's the case, then there might be a problem with the Undying Scripture. What do you mean? Lu Yin's eyes lit up. Elder Yu said in a low voice, the ancestor has existed for far too long, and apart from the Nether secret technique, we don't know anything about the ancestor. If it wasn't for the Nether secret technique, we wouldn't even have dared to believe that the Nether ancestor existed. We only know about the ancestor from the Nether secret technique, such as the 100 Nether transformation title. Lu Yin nodded. Yu Qian had mentioned the Netherworld ancestor before. The ancestor's cultivation technique is called the demonic scripture, and it's all-encompassing. No one knows what chapters it contains, but perhaps the Undying Scripture is one of them. Lu Yin felt a headache coming on. If that was the case, then Undying Yushan would be difficult to deal with. The Netherworld ancestor was an ancient existence, and even the Starsabil sect had said that he might have existed in the same era as the legend of the Grim Reaper. The older someone was, the more terrifying they were. The Undying Scripture's name sent a chill down Lu Yin's spine. Senior, do you think the Netherworld ancestor is still alive? Lu Yin suddenly asked. Elder Yu looked up. Because of the Undying Scripture? Lu Yin nodded. If the Undying Scripture really is one of the chapters of the demonic scripture, then it's said that cultivating the Undying Scripture can grant one eternal life. Does that mean the Netherworld ancestor is immortal? Is he still alive somewhere? Elder Yu shook his head. Perhaps. If he's still alive, then it's a good thing for the Yu family. Is it possible that the gaze that's been staring at you is the Netherworld ancestor? Lu Yin asked. This question stunned Elder Yu and sent a chill down Yu Kursen's spine. It was as if the Netherworld river had become much more sinister when that gaze had looked at it again. Alliance Master Lu, you must be joking. Yu Kursen paled. Anyone who had such a guess would be terrified. The ancestor was still alive and he was still staring at the juniors. Lu Yin saw that she wasn't faking it and said indifferently, "Whether or not he's the netherworld ancestor, he hasn't done anything to you for so many years. Either he's worried about Xiaji since you're in the 7 courts or you're hallucinating." Impossible. Yuku thought. Lu Yin looked down at the Great Styx River, but he couldn't see the bottom. He reached into the river and found that the Great Styx River wasn't an ordinary river. It had the unique ability to corrode all matter and ordinary people wouldn't dare to touch it. Of course it wasn't a threat to Lu Yin. Have you ever thought that perhaps that gaze came from the bottom of the Great Styx River? Elder Yu was surprised. You think so too? Lu Yin was stunned and he looked at Elder Yu. Senior, you think so too? Elder Yu sighed. Ever since we felt that gaze, the entire Yu family has been on tenterhooks for many years. We've even turned the entire family upside down. The only possibility is that it's at the bottom of the great underworld river. What were the results? Lu Yin asked. Old Yu replied, "There's nothing strange about it. The Great Styx River itself is a powerful treasure, and the Yu family's treasure, the Styx River, was born here. However, I've gone to the bottom of the river countless times, and I haven't been able to find anything. That's why I've been here all this time. If there really is someone hiding at the bottom of the Great Styx River, I'll be the first to know or the first to die." Lu Yin looked at Elder Yu with respect. This was an elder who was willing to give up his life for his family. "If the Yu family agrees, I'm willing to explore the bottom of the river." "Of course. Alliance Master Lu, please do as you wish." Yu Kurson nodded. All right. Their straightforward agreement made Lu Yin panic. His advantage over Elder Yu was that he could see rune lines, but that wasn't very useful in the Neoverse. Other than that, he also had his domain, spiritual force, and other scouting methods. Since Elder Yu had gone to the bottom of the Great Styx River countless times without being able to find anything, then with Lu Yin's current strength, the result would be the same. "Let the second Night King go," Lu Yin said. Elder Yu didn't refuse either. The second Night King was called over by Lu Yin, and when he heard that he was going to dive into the Great Styx River to search, he immediately felt uncomfortable. A few juniors were boating on the river while he had to do manual labor. However, since Lu Yin had said so, there was nothing he could do. Elder Yu paid close attention to the second Night King diving into the Great Styx River. "Senior, tell me about the Su family. How much do you know about them?" Lu Yin asked. Yu Kurson was astonished. The Su family? Lu Yin saw that Elder Yu wasn't paying any attention to him and was still staring at the bottom of the river. He then looked at Yu Kurson. "That's right. I'm going to visit the Su family next." Yu Kurson thought, it seems like Alliance Master Lu is going to visit all of the 7 courts. "Pretty much," Lu Yin admitted. Yu Kurson replied, "There's nothing much to say about the Su family. Their ancestor is Su Wangtian, and he's also a relatively ancient progenitor. However, compared to my Yu family's ancestor, Su Wangtian's records are much clearer. He created the Su esoteric art, left behind the chessboard, and passed down the battle strategy theory. All of this is common knowledge." Lu Yin looked up. Common knowledge? No, it was just common knowledge in the eyes of these big shots. If not for Mr. Mu using the Zhou family's blood to guide him in comprehending the chessboard, he might not have even heard of Su Wangtian's name, even if he had become an enlighter. Because of the battle strategy theory, the Su family is constantly studying and simulating battle techniques. They have the most battle techniques in the 7 courts, and because they want to comprehend the chessboard, they play chess with everyone they meet. They consider themselves to be the strategists and have always been competing with the Hui family. The Hui family is considered the smartest, and the Su family thinks that they are the smartest. They are very arrogant, and if Alliance Master Lu visits them, it might not be as smooth as visiting the other families, Yu Kurson said. Lu Yin understood that Yu Kurson was referring to him visiting the Su family as a stranger who had never interacted with them before. However, he was not a stranger to the Su family. At the very least, he knew the Su esoteric art and he had exposed it. Furthermore, he had destroyed the Zhou family's plans to control Myriad City, so the Su family's attitude towards him might not be very friendly. "Has anyone observed the Su family's chessboard before?" Lu Yin asked. Yu Kurson shook her head, but then she suddenly realized something. "You're not thinking of observing the Su family's ancestors' motionless chessboard, are you?" Lu Yin nodded naturally. Yu Kurson was speechless. "You're really daring. The Su family's comprehension of the Su esoteric art came from that motionless chessboard, and the Su family's power vessel was also created by imitating that chessboard. Even the names are the same. The motionless chessboard's significance to the Su family is equivalent to the river Styx to my Yu family, and it's equivalent to the withered age tree's importance to the Ku family. How could they possibly allow you to observe it? Lu Yin muttered to himself as he stared at the bottom of the river. That's right, how could they possibly allow him to observe it? It's not impossible. An outsider has observed the motionless chessboard before, Elder Yu said, his gaze still fixed on the river. Lu Yin was surprised. Who? Elder Yu replied, the head inquisitor. The head inquisitor? Yu Kursin exclaimed. The head inquisitor they were referring to was the head inquisitor of the interstellar court. Some people were wary of the head inquisitor not only because the head inquisitor controlled the Hall of Honor, but also because of his strength. The head inquisitor's strength was extremely terrifying, and this was publicly acknowledged. Currently, the peak of the Fifth Mainland's cultivation world was the half-ancestors, but even they had to respect the head inquisitor. The head inquisitor went to the tactician family and observed the motionless chessboard. Lu Yin was just as surprised. Elder Yu looked at Lu Yin. Yes, that was many years ago. How did he do it? Lu Yin asked. Elder Yu recalled, subdued him. Subdued him? Lu Yin's eyes flashed. Elder Yu solemnly replied, a person who subdued the tactician family can observe the motionless chessboard. The tactician family is a classic example of someone who bullies the weak and fears the strong. They think of themselves as strategists and are good at planning before acting, so most of the time they don't fight head-on. When faced with the head inquisitor they cower because the opponent is too strong. Lu Yin blinked. Was being too domineering really enough? That was interesting, but unfortunately he couldn't do it at the moment. The tactician family definitely had an elder with a power level of over 1,000,000. Lu Yin wasn't a match for such an existence at the moment, and even if he relied on the second Night King, it would still be an external force. What was the head inquisitor's power level when he subdued the tactician family? Lu Yin asked. Elder Yu replied, I don't know. Everyone can clearly see the head inquisitor's power level, but he has already undergone several origin tribulations. Even if his power level isn't 1,000,000, he should be close. Lu Yin nodded. He had only undergone one origin tribulation, and even if he had used the method of sealing the 3 stages to obtain 3 more astral cyclones, which was equivalent to having undergone 4 origin tribulations. However, he had already undergone 1 origin tribulation, and sealing off the 3 stages meant that the benefits of breaking through 3 origin tribulations would disappear. However, one day he would be able to release 4 more astral cyclones and break through the 3 stages once more. At that time his power would soar to an unknown level. Yu Kursin looked at Lu Yin and then at Elder Yu with a confused expression. She didn't know about this, but why had the elder told Lu Yin? At that moment the second Night King rushed out of the great Styx. Lu Yin's trio looked over. The second Night King replied, there's nothing out of the ordinary, but there's a strange flow of water that seems to ignore space. That's the Styx, Elder Yu said. He then waved his hand, causing the great Styx to boil. Following that, a stream of water was pulled up and placed in front of Lu Yin. Under Lu Yin's puzzled gaze, the elder said, Alliance Master Lu, this Styx is a power vessel of my Yu family. Although it's not a particularly powerful treasure, it has been nurtured in the great Styx for many years. I'm giving it to you. Lu Yin had not only heard of the Yu family's Styx, but he had also seen it before. Back in progenitor Chen's tomb, Sujiu had used it and it had left a deep impression on him. Normal Styx treasures can only travel through space with astral energy, but this Styx can move through the astral source universe and travel endless distances in an instant. It's extremely helpful to emissaries, Yu Kursin said enviously. Even she didn't have this Styx. The Styx was born from the great Styx, and the longer it was nurtured the better its effects would be. The Styx that had been given to Sujiu's juniors was the most ordinary one, but it could still help them. However, the one that had been given to Lu Yin was second only to the great Styx, and not even Yu Kursin had the qualifications to use it. This was a power vessel that the Yu family had given to Lu Yin as thanks for his help. Lu Yin's eyes lit up and he quickly put the Styx away. He had already profited greatly from this trip to the 7 courts. The Hui family's wisdom root, the Ku family's time tree, and the Yu family's Styx. Now he still had to go to the Su family. If he could smoothly observe the motionless chessboard, then this trip would truly be worth it. Chapter 1939. The Su family would never allow him to observe the chessboard without moving. Should he imitate the head judge? He couldn't do it alone. Yukerson left and Elder Yu paddled. Lu Yin sat alone in the wooden boat and swam through the Great Styx River. The Star Luster region was a rather peculiar region. The Su family had operated there for countless years, and they used planets as chess pieces. The entire region was like a chessboard, and no matter how one looked at it, it was a neatly arranged chess game. The further away one was from the 7 courts, the more surprised one would be at the strangeness of the 7 courts. The Yu family's Great Styx River was like a mirror that reflected bright light. The Ku family's Land of Spirit Void flashed with lightning, and the Su family's Star Luster region was like a chessboard that seemed to be played by a giant. The Hui family's 10,000 Elephant Mountain contained countless golden meteors, and the Xia family's Summer Blade continent was like a saber that rested in the starry sky. The Xia family's bone plains were filled with white bones that gave off an oppressive Yin aura. The 7 courts surrounded progenitor Chen's tomb, forming the most terrifying behemoth in the Neoverse southern region. On a planet in the Star Luster region, Zhou Xian was drinking gloomily. His vision was blurry and he was drunk. This was a brothel and there were beautiful women everywhere, but no one greeted him. At this moment the clamor caused the entire brothel to become excited. Beautiful women walked out from the back courtyard rooms and even outside, their eyes shining as they looked at the entrance. A few young men entered with humble expressions, but they couldn't hide the arrogance in their eyes. After entering the brothel, each of them hugged 2 beautiful women and laughed as they played around. The surrounding people were envious. That's the Illusory Merchant Alliance's leader, Qian Yi. As expected of the genius who helped his family set up the Illusory Merchant Alliance and eventually took control of it, someone commented loudly. When the leader of the group, who was hugging 2 beautiful women, heard this, the corners of his mouth curled up in a complacent arc. He became more and more impudent, and the charming laughter that entered his ears made his mind sway. The master of the Illusion Merchant Alliance Qian Yi, the master of the Guangyuan Consortium Zishu, and the master of the Ming family who married the princess of the Sealed Qi Great World. These 3 are the most outstanding geniuses of the Su family. Our Su family pays attention to strategy and layout. We don't advocate strength and we're good at using the smallest price to obtain the highest value. These 3 geniuses have controlled the Illusion Merchant Alliance, the Guangyuan Consortium, and the Sealed Qi Great World for their families. Their fame has even overshadowed the geniuses of the Su family of the same generation. Indeed, there are hundreds of thousands of people with different surnames in the Su clan. Very few people can do what they did, but I've heard that there are even more hidden people with different surnames who are plotting big things. It's just a rumor. Who would believe it? Without using their family's resources, the 3 of them have already reached their limits, and that's only because the 3 of them have been supporting each other. Look at that drunkard Zhou Xian from the Zhou family. He probably tried to take over some city in the Outerverse, but he failed and returned. He's Zhou Xian? I've heard that the family has high hopes for him and they even gave him a war strategy thesis, but he still failed. And in a trashy place like the Outerverse. How shameful. I've also heard that he went to the burial garden, but he quickly escaped. He's as timid as a mouse. Compared to him, Master Qian Yi and the others are too outstanding. Qian Yi, who was walking into the room with 2 beautiful women in his arms, suddenly stopped and looked back. He saw Zhou Xian in the hall, who was already drunk. His eyes flashed and he walked back with the 2 women in his arms, approaching Zhou Xian. The other 2 looked at each other and then followed. For a moment, Zhou Xian's surroundings were filled with the fragrance of cosmetics. Brother Zhou, it's lonely to be drunk alone. Let's accompany you. Why? Qian Yi sat across from Zhou Xian and looked at him with interest. Zhou Xian's vision was hazy and he couldn't see clearly. Who are you? Brother Zhou is really drunk. You don't even recognize us 3 brothers. Zishu laughed. He walked behind Zhou Xian and rudely grabbed his hair and lifted his head. Zhou Xian felt a sharp pain in his neck and he subconsciously slapped at Zishu. Zishu's gaze was fierce and he dodged the attack while kicking out with his leg. They were both explorers and Zishu's power level was not weak. However, he was still unable to suppress the drunken Zhou Xian. Even though Zhou Xian was drunk, he could still use his war strategy thesis to easily dissolve Zishu's attack. He turned around and raised his finger, forming a strange diagram that pressed down on Zishu. Zishu's pupils shrank. He didn't know how to dodge this attack, and it seemed like he couldn't dodge it no matter how hard he tried. At this moment, the Ming family's young master took out a strange weapon that resembled a gun and shot something at Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian's body froze and his fingertips stopped right in front of Zishu's forehead. I sealed his movements. Zishu, are you all right? The Ming family's young master asked. Zishu's face turned ugly as he had almost been finished. He looked at the drunken Zhou Xian in front of him and couldn't hold back his anger. He kicked out and sent Zhou Xian flying. Zhou Xian slammed into the wall and spat out a mouthful of blood. He continued to vomit, and the onlookers retreated in disgust. After vomiting all the wine in his stomach, Zhou Xian leaned against the wall and sobered up. At the same time, a sharp pain shot through his abdomen. He clutched his abdomen and looked in front of him. Qianyi, Zishu, and the Ming family's young master looked down at him. Brother Zhu, are you still sober? Qianyi asked as he stared coldly at Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian was confused. Zishu sneered. Looks like I'll have to kick you again. Zhou Xian sobered up when he heard this. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and struggled to stand up. He stared at Zishu. You kicked me? Zishu didn't care. The Ming family's young master calmly said, Brother Zhu, you're drunk and causing trouble in this brothel. We didn't want the Zhu family's reputation to be tarnished, so we stopped you. He then raised his voice and asked, Isn't that right? Instantly, countless people responded, Yes, Zhou Xian. You should thank the 3 young masters, or else your Zhu family's reputation would be tarnished. That's right. Thank the 3 young masters properly and stop causing trouble. How embarrassing. Hurry up and thank the 3 young masters. Although Zhou Xian was drunk, he wasn't unconscious. Hearing the commotion around him, he recalled what had just happened, and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. He glanced at the 3 young masters and turned to leave. Qianyi and the other 2 looked at each other. They hadn't caused trouble for Zhou Xian so that he could leave. In fact, the 3 of them had returned from the outside world in high spirits. They had thought that they were the most outstanding members of the Su family, but they had met Zhou Xian. Although Zhou Xian hadn't been able to obtain Wanqing City and was considered a failure, his strength was quite good. At least he was very strong to them. In terms of strategy, the Yin-Yang 3 Immortals technique's opening move wasn't something they could resist. Especially with the opening move of the Yin-Yang 3 Immortals technique, he had offset Wanqing City's mistake and even received a reward. This was something they had always kept in mind. However, to the members of the Su family, the 3 of them had always been superior to Zhou Xian. The Zhu family only had Zhou Xian left, so they couldn't do anything else. Gradually, Zhou Xian fell silent. But no matter how much they struggled, how could they fall silent? Zhou Xian's strength was indeed superior to theirs. Strategy wasn't something an outsider could learn, but Zhou Xian knew it. This made them jealous. The 3 of them chased out of the brothel and stood in front of Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian, we helped you just now. Why are you leaving just like that? Zishu said fiercely. Zhou Xian's gaze turned cold. What do you want? The 3 of them looked at each other again, but before they could speak, Zhou Xian said, How about I teach you strategy? The 3 of them were shocked, but then they were overjoyed. Zhou Xian's gaze was mocking. I'm willing to teach you. Do you dare to learn? Hearing this, the 3 of them were conflicted. Did they dare to learn? Of course not. That was strategy and only the members of the Su family could learn it. But why could Zhou Xian learn it? They wanted to learn too. Only by learning strategy could they be considered true members of the Su family. They could also use it to imitate other people's battle techniques and be as impressive as they could be. If you don't dare to learn, then move aside. Zhou Xian pushed the 3 of them away and planned to leave. This bastard is playing with us. Zishu reacted. Zhou Xian had said in public that he wanted to teach them strategy. How could they learn it? That would be courting death. This guy clearly didn't intend to teach them. Qianyi and the Ming family's young master reacted as well, and they were furious. Go. The 3 of them attacked Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian could defeat one of them by himself, but against the 3 of them working together, especially since they were very familiar with each other and he had been injured before, he couldn't withstand their attacks. He was soon heavily injured, and even with strategy and the 3 Yin-Yang immortal arts, he couldn't make up for the difference. These 3 had always been adventuring in the Neoverse, and they were much stronger than Zhou Xian. You piece of trash. So what if you've learned the theory of war? I heard that back in the Outerverse. You were tricked into dressing up as a woman. You're the disgrace of my Su family. Qian Yi kicked Zhou Xian's head and sent him flying. Zishu stepped forward and viciously stomped on Zhou Xian. Trash, wear women's clothing for me to see again? I want you to dress up as a woman in this brothel. How interesting. You're quite hardworking to complete your mission. Unfortunately, you don't have a brain, the Ming family's young master mocked and slapped Zhou Xian. Everyone on the street watched, but no one helped Zhou Xian. In the Astral Sift region, this planet was inhabited by outsiders. Qian Yi and the other two were the most outstanding outsiders, and they even had elders from their families behind them. Zhou Xian was just one person, so how could he possibly be their match? No one dared to interfere. Zhou Xian coughed up blood as anger and hatred accumulated in his heart. He no longer cared about the Su family after he had used them. He had entered Burial Garden in hopes of securing a future, but he had encountered Lu Yin and was being chased down by others. In his panic, he had been forced to retreat. Now that he thought about it, he should have stayed in Burial Garden instead of being bullied in the Astral Sift region. While they were beating him up, a giant ruler fell from the sky and forced Qian Yi and the other two to retreat. This was a force field, and it was so oppressive that they almost vomited blood. Who is it? The three looked up, and a young man had appeared in the sky at some point, staring at them coldly. When they saw the man's appearance, they were shocked and quickly bowed. Greetings, young master. Everyone on the street also bowed. Greetings, young master. Greetings, young master. The person who had appeared was Sujio. No one had expected Sujio to come here, as the Su family's disciples usually did not come to the territories of outsiders, especially the young master. Chapter 1940. Zhou Xian spat out a mouthful of blood and looked up at the sky. Sujio's gaze landed on him and he frowned. You're Zhou Xian? Zhou Xian stood up with difficulty and bowed. Greetings, young master. Sujio replied, I'll give you an hour to wash up and follow me to see the patriarch. He then tossed a pill onto the ground. Everyone knew that this was no ordinary pill due to its medicinal fragrance. Qian Ye's mouth fell open and his mind trembled. He recognized this pill. It was the Su family's best pill. Only those who were severely injured were allowed to take it. How could Zhou Xian take such a pill? He looked miserable, but he wasn't actually injured, so he didn't need such a pill. Zhou Xian was also shocked and looked at Sujio in confusion. Sujio said, Hurry up. Zhou Xian was startled. Yes. An hour later, Zhou Xian left with Sujio under the complicated gazes of Qian Yi and the rest. They were heading towards the center of the astral mesh to see the patriarch. Many people looked at Qian Ye's group with schadenfreude in their eyes. The three of them had beaten up and bullied Zhou Xian, and it seemed that he was about to make a comeback. Once he did, their days would be miserable. Don't look at how they obtained some things for the clan, but those things were far from the contributions of the Su clan's direct descendants. Moreover, Zhou Xian was personally taken away by the young patriarch, Sujio. Looking at his attitude, Sujio was very polite to him. This was not simple. Qian Yi and the other two looked at each other and their bodies went limp. They felt as if a great disaster was about to befall them. There were rumors that Sujio treated them with respect, but that was a lie. Their subordinates had purposely made it up to raise their status. Now Zhou Xian had really been taken away by the young master and even given a precious pill. Who would have thought that Zhou Xian, who had been silent for so many years, would rise again? In outer space, Sujio transformed his domain into a ruler and brought Zhou Xian to the center of the astral mesh. Zhou Xian nervously asked, Young master, may I ask why the patriarch is looking for me? He didn't feel that he had the right to meet the patriarch, nor did he have the value. Sujio glanced at him. You know Lu Yin, right? Zhou Xian was astonished. Lu Yin? Seeing Sujio staring at him, he thought for a moment and said, When I tried to take Wan Chenqing, I failed because of Lu Yin. Zhou Xian told him a lot of things in the past. In fact, he had made a detailed record of these things. Regardless of whether the plan succeeded or failed, it had to be recorded. This was the style of the Su family. Looking at the vast planet in front of them, this planet was the center of the Star Luo region and also where the clan leader Su Lao Yen was. Lu Yin wants to visit the Su family because he wants to meet a friend he hasn't seen in a long time. Get ready, Sujio said and stepped onto the planet. Zhou Xian was stunned. Lu Yin, it was actually Lu Yin. No wonder Sujio had personally gone to pick him up. Lu Yin had wanted to meet him. But when did he become friends with Lu Yin? Long time no see. Friends. Lu Yin and the second Night King stood in space outside the Astral Mesa domain. In front of them was the Su family's strategy elder Yen. I didn't expect Alliance Master Lu to visit my Su clan. Your presence brings light to our humble dwelling, Silao Yen said politely. He had a smile on his face, but it didn't give off any warmth. Instead, it gave off a trace of coldness. Silao Yen led the rest of the Su family to welcome Lu Yin. This was a sign of respect for Lu Yin's status, but it didn't mean that they welcomed him. At least the Su family's elder Su Yu wasn't present. Lu Yin stepped forward and smiled. I hope clan leader Su doesn't mind my sudden visit. Silao Yen smiled. After the Yu family's trial, I actually wanted to invite Alliance Master Lu to my Su family as a guest, but I was afraid that Alliance Master Lu would be busy, so I didn't ask. Since Alliance Master Lu is here, the Su family naturally welcomes you. That's good. Lu Yin smiled, his gaze landing on the group behind Silao Yen. One of them had his head lowered, looking nervous and uneasy. It was Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian, Alliance Master Lu is here to see you. Why don't you come out? Silao Yen asked. Zhou Xian, who was standing behind Sujio, shuddered and walked out. He didn't know why Lu Yin was looking for him. They definitely weren't friends, but there was no reason for him to come to the Su family to cause trouble. Sujio looked at Lu Yin with a complicated expression. They had once been rivals, and Lu Yin had only been a junior to the Su family. Now this person had grown to the point where the entire Su family welcomed him. Zhou Xian walked up behind Silao Yen and looked at Lu Yin with a complicated expression. He didn't know what to say. Lu Yin laughed. Brother Zhu, you said you would invite me to the Astral Sift as a guest after we parted at the burial garden. Why haven't I heard from you? Everyone looked at Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian opened his mouth. Lu Yin didn't seem like he was looking for trouble, but were they that close? Even though Lu Yin was smiling cheerfully and talking to him like a friend, Zhou Xian knew Lu Yin well. Why would Lu Yin look for him for no reason at all? They really weren't close. I forgot, Zhou Xian laughed dryly. Lu Yin smiled. I took the initiative to look for you. Don't tell me you don't welcome me? Although Zhou Xian was on guard, he had once been the young master of the Zhou family and had been bold enough to take over Myriad City. Even though he couldn't figure out Lu Yin's motive, he quickly recovered and forced a smile. Of course you're welcome, but I'm afraid I might neglect Brother Lu due to my status in the Astral Sift. Silao Yen said, Alliance Master Lu is a guest in the Astral Sift, so how could we neglect him? Let's not chat at the entrance. Alliance Master Lu, please. Lu Yin smiled and nodded, following the Su family into the Astral Sift. Zhou Xian was instructed by Silao Yen to follow Lu Yin. The Astral Sift's arrangement reminded Lu Yin of the Star Sift sect, as the planets were all arranged in a regular pattern. Along the way he asked many questions about the Astral Sift as if he was very curious. No one could tell his motive, as if he really was just a guest. Silao Yen received Lu Yin while contacting Huizhi and Ku Pu. He wanted to find out Lu Yin's motive, but he couldn't find anything. Lu Yin was no longer a junior, and even the Su family felt pressured when facing him. If not for the Seven Courts having a half-ancestor like Xiaji, even Silao Yen would feel pressured given Lu Yin's influence. As the head of the Su family, Silao Yen took the initiative to receive Lu Yin and show him around the Astral Sift. Zhou Xian, Sujio and the rest followed along, and it wasn't until a day later that Silao Yen allowed Zhou Xian to receive Lu Yin. After all, Lu Yin had come to find Zhou Xian. The second Night King had been following them the entire time. The Su family cared about Lu Yin's influence, but they didn't care about his strength. Only the second Night King could arouse their vigilance. Fortunately, the second Night King had been very normal the entire time, just like an ordinary person. Father, why don't you ask Lu Yin how he learned the Su family's secret character? Silao Yen couldn't help but ask. Silao Yen asked, what do you think of Lu Yin's relationship with Zhou Xian? Sujio thought about it. I don't think they're very close. Then why did he come to find Zhou Xian? Silao Yen asked. Sujio replied, I've thought about it before. Could it be that he wants to use Zhou Xian as an excuse to visit the Su family? Silao Yen solemnly said, Lu Yin is a very scheming person. If he uses Zhou Xian as an excuse to visit the Su family, then he must have some ulterior motive. It's not like he doesn't know that the Su secret word has been exposed, but he still dares to come here. He must be prepared. So father doesn't want to act rashly before we know his goal? Sujio suddenly understood. Silao Yen turned around and looked deeply in Lu Yin's direction. The universe is a game of chess and there's no time limit. It all depends on who can endure it. Lu Yin can't stay in the Su family for long, so his goal will be clear soon. He then ordered, "Bring me the information on Zhou Xian." His father. After Silao Yen and the rest left, only Lu Yin, the second Night King, and Zhou Xian were left behind. Lu Yin looked at Zhou Xian. "You didn't expect me to come looking for you?" Zhou Xian was puzzled, full of apprehension and vigilance. "Alliance leader Lu, we've never interacted before. Why are you looking for me?" Lu Yin raised a hand and slowly patted Zhou Xian's shoulder. "Let's talk as we walk. Take me around the astral mesh and the planet you live on." Zhou Xian didn't understand, but he still did as he was told and brought Lu Yin to the planet he lived on. His residence wasn't too far from the street where the brothel had been located. Zhou Xian's eyes flashed when she saw the bustling crowd and the various beauties in the brothel. She brought Lu Yin along and landed on the street. "Alliance Master Lu, my residence isn't too far from here. Let's walk over to avoid attracting attention." Lu Yin nodded. "As you wish." Zhou Xian took a deep breath and led Lu Yin to the street where he was often looked down upon and bullied. This planet was where the Su family's outsiders spent their time, and those who could walk on this street were the more capable ones. Among them, Qian Yi and a few others were the most eye-catching. Although Zhou Xian had failed in his attempt to take over Wanqian City, he had accumulated a lot of resources over the years and often came here to spend. Most people recognized him. His goal in bringing Lu Yin here was simple: to intimidate others. Although he didn't know why Lu Yin had come looking for him, he didn't want to know. Even if Lu Yin wanted to use him, he wanted to collect some interest first. No one was stupid, especially someone like Zhou Xian who was good at seizing opportunities. In order to take over Wanqian City, he had even dressed as a woman. There was nothing he didn't dare to do. The streets were bustling with activity, and from time to time, there would be people talking loudly with beautiful women accompanying them. Occasionally, there would be people spending money like it was nothing. When Zhou Xian brought Lu Yin and the second Night King down the street, they immediately attracted a lot of attention. At this moment, Qian Yi and the other two were drinking gloomily on the 5th floor of the brothel. They had been here since yesterday and had stayed the entire night. They were uneasy and didn't know what had happened to Zhou Xian, that the young patriarch had personally come to take him away. "Brother, what should we do if Zhou Xian really gets close to the young patriarch?" the Ming elder asked with a gloomy expression. Zishu frowned. "Ever since Zhou Xian returned from the outerverse to the astral mesh, we've bullied him too many times. It won't be easy to reconcile." Chapter 1941. Qian Yi slammed his cup on the table, his gaze fierce. "He's just a lucky bastard. Maybe the young master was just tricked. His entire Zhou family is dead and he failed his mission. What right does he have to be valued by the young master? But he knows battle strategy, and he even handed over a supposedly powerful battle technique," the Ming family's young master said hesitantly. They all fell silent. Zishu suddenly said, "We've always known that he failed his mission, but do you know what kind of mission it was?" Qian Yi and the Ming family's young master looked at each other in confusion. How could they possibly know about the Su family's mission? "Although I don't know what kind of mission it is, there shouldn't be any major missions in the outerverse," the Ming family's young master guessed. Zishu's eyes flashed. Logically speaking, the missions in the outerverse are far less important than those in the neoverse. However, the Zhou family was able to obtain battle strategy while carrying out a mission. This is something that even you and I, including her, can't enjoy. What right does Zhou Xian have? There's only one possibility. The Zhou family's mission is more important than ours. The Ming family's young master was bewildered. "I remember now. 1,000 years ago, a disciple with a different surname carried out a mission and obtained a battle strategy inheritance. Apparently, that person's mission involved an emissary and was very important." "The outerverse has emissaries?" Qian Yi was astonished. Zishu's eyes flashed. "What's the first thing that comes to mind when the outerverse is mentioned?" "The Great Eastern Alliance." The Ming family's young master and Qian Yi spoke at the same time. Zishu said, "Could Zhou Xian's mission be related to that Lu Yin? Come to think of it, Zhou Xian returned to the astral sift after the innerverse and outerverse were reconnected. At that time, the Great Eastern Alliance had already unified the outerverse." "Impossible. How could Zhou Xian be related to that Luin? He's the young supreme of the entire universe, the ruler of the Great Eastern Alliance. He's someone who can shake the entire universe with a stomp of his foot, Qianyi refuted. At that moment, a clamor could be heard. It grew closer and closer, and they could vaguely make out Zhou Xian's name. The three looked over and their expressions changed. Zhou Xian led Lu Yin and the second Night King down the street, shocking countless people along the way. They did not recognize the second Night King, but they recognized Lu Yin. Lu Yin's appearance was etched in their hearts. No one had expected that Lu Yin would actually come here one day. When Qianyi and the other two saw this, their faces turned ashen. It was true, Zhou Xian was actually with Lu Yin. They thought of the Zhou family's mission, which definitely had something to do with Lu Yin. They thought of how Zhou Xian had been taught the theory of war and many other things, but most of all they thought of how she had looked at them with hatred. For a moment, fear filled their hearts. They weren't the only ones. All of the people who had mocked and insulted Zhou Xian were now filled with panic and despair. The beautiful women in the brothel were all dumbfounded. They watched Zhou Xian calmly walk by and didn't dare to make a sound. At this moment, Zhou Xian had reached the peak of the Star Luo region. It was clearly a very short distance, but they walked for almost an hour. They stopped in front of a courtyard. Alliance Master Lu, this is my humble abode. Lu Yin looked at Zhou Xian with a faint smile. Satisfied? Zhou Xian bowed deeply to Lu Yin. Thank you, Alliance Master Lu. He knew that he could not fool Lu Yin, but he was still satisfied. The depression that had accumulated over the years of humiliation had finally been vented. He looked at the panicked and despairing faces of the people around him, and Qianyi and the other two even spilled the wine in their cups. It was laughable that he did not know, but he felt like he had come back to life. He thought back to his days in Myriad City, where he had acted like a tyrant and lived a carefree life. This was the life that Zhou Xian should have lived. He did not even know how he had managed to survive. Lu Yin's lips curled up as he stepped into the courtyard. After entering, Zhou Xian suddenly knelt down on one knee. Lu Yin was astonished. What are you doing? The second Night King looked at Zhou Xian, as this scene was not unfamiliar to him. Back then, brute force had also knelt in front of Lu Yin. As Lu Yin's status and influence grew, more and more people would kneel before him in the future. He was already standing at the peak that countless people could not see. Zhou Xian's gaze was resolute, and he grabbed the ground with his right hand to wipe away the dust in his palm. I don't know why Alliance Master Lu is looking for me, but I, Zhou Xian, want to return to my days in Myriad City. I don't want to be bullied by others and do nothing for the rest of my life. I don't want to be at the mercy of the Su family. I once thought that returning to the Seven Courts would allow the Su family to rise to the top and surpass most people. I didn't care about the 10 arbiters, but I was wrong. No matter how influential the Seven Courts are, I, Zhou Xian, am still a nobody. I might be sent on a certain death mission one day, and even if I don't die, I can only muddle along in the astral mesh region for the rest of my life. Alliance Master Lu, I admit that when I left Myriad City and returned to the Su family, I had thoughts of taking revenge on you. Because of you, my Zhou family's plan to seize Myriad City failed. However, these thoughts have long since disappeared. I, Zhou Xian, am just a nobody, and I cannot compete with Alliance Master Lu for anything. I only hope that Alliance Master Lu can accept me and allow me to return to the Great Eastern Alliance. At this point, Zhou Xian raised his head and looked hopefully at Lu Yin. His eyes were bright and filled with an unprecedented conviction and determination. I will do whatever Alliance Master wants me to do. I, Zhou Xian, do not wish to retire in the astral mesh region. I do not wish to die in some corner of the universe without anyone knowing. Please accept me, Alliance Master. Zhou Xian's other leg also knelt down, and he completely prostrated himself before Lu Yin. Without experiencing some things, a person would never be able to grow up. When Lu Yin had first met Zhou Xian, he had been extremely arrogant and had dared to challenge anyone. He had hidden his true intentions and wanted to marry Xianxia and seize Myriad City, but he had failed. All of his ambitions had been reduced to nothing, and all that had been left behind was his desire and hatred for the Seven Courts. After that, he had returned to the Su family. However, this was a decision that he regretted to this day. Since he had failed his mission, what right did the Su family have to put him in an important position? His surname was not Su but Zhu, and he was not part of the Su family. There were too many people like him in the Su family. Back then, Zhou Xian had thought that they were all Su family members who had accidentally wandered into Myriad City. It was only after he returned to the astral mesh region that he realized that this had all been part of the Su family's plan. There were too many people who had experienced the same thing as them. He was just one of the many pitiful people who had failed their missions. People like him were only fit to serve as cannon fodder. However, he had more ideas than those pitiful people, which was why he had charged into Burial Garden the moment it had appeared. Unfortunately, he had run into Xia Yi, who had been chasing after Lu Yin, and he had been forced to flee. He had been lucky that he had ended up in the Neoverse when he had exited. Otherwise, he might not have been able to make it back. All of the grievances he had suffered in the astral mesh region were finally released. Seeing Zhou Xian's surrender gave Lu Yin a headache. He had originally come to the Su family to use Zhou Xian's secret knowledge of the three immortals yin-yang technique to cause trouble for the Su family. He wanted to observe the Su family's motionless chessboard, but now that Zhou Xian had surrendered, Lu Yin could no longer cause trouble for him. It was not that he cared about Zhou Xian, but rather that Zhou Xian was a member of the Su family. If Zhou Xian sincerely surrendered to Lu Yin, it would be of great help to him in the future. Deep in his heart, Lu Yin also wanted to return a favor to the Zhou family. The reason he had been able to learn the Su secret art was because of the Zhou family. His bloodline and the Su secret art had been of great help to him on his cultivation path. "Why should I believe you?" Lu Yin asked. Zhou Xian raised his head. "I can give the war strategy theory to Alliance Master Lu." Lu Yin's eyes flashed. The war strategy theory was a technique of the Su family that could simulate many battle techniques. The three immortals yin-yang technique had been simulated by Zhou Xian through the war strategy theory. In theory, this technique could not be leaked to outsiders and it would be difficult for others to learn it. Even if they did learn it, they would be afraid of the Su family's revenge. However, Lu Yin did not have such worries. Regardless of whether he could learn the war strategy theory, it was a fact that Zhou Xian had leaked it to outsiders. To the Su family, this was an absolute capital offense. Once the war strategy theory was leaked, Zhou Xian would become the Su family's mortal enemy. There would be no way for him to return. "Go find Silao Yen," Lu Yin said. Zhou Xian did not understand and looked at Lu Yin. Lu Yin looked at him and slowly spoke. That night Zhou Xian met Sujio. "Where is Lu Yin? Why did you come to the Su family?" Sujio asked. Zhou Xian hurriedly said, "Young master, quickly report to the family head and hide the three immortals yin-yang technique." Sujio was puzzled. "What do you mean? The three immortals yin-yang technique? Isn't that the battle technique you obtained by imitating Xianxia?" Zhou Xian's face paled. "I'm not familiar with Lu Yin at all. In fact, we were enemies when we tried to steal Wan Qianqing. Lu Yin is not here as a guest. He has a motive." Sujio's expression did not change. Of course he knew, the entire Su family knew. They could tell that Zhou Xian was not familiar with Lu Yin, which was why Sujio had come to find him. "Speak clearly," Sujio said in a low voice. Being targeted by Lu Yin was a headache even for the Su family. Zhou Xian said, "It's all my fault. I learned the three immortals yin-yang technique through the war strategy theory and taught it to the family. Lu Yin is using this as a reason to cause trouble for the family. I don't know his real motive, but it's definitely because of the three immortals technique." "Why are you so sure?" Sujio was puzzled. Zhou Xian gritted her teeth. "I'm too familiar with Lu Yin and I understand him too well. I can guess his every move." Sujio frowned and looked at Zhou Xian. "You can see through Lu Yin?" Zhou Xian smiled bitterly. "I can roughly guess what he's thinking." "You can't find out his motive?" Sujio was unwilling to give up. Zhou Xian thought about it. "If I'm not wrong, it has something to do with the Su family's ancestral chessboard." Sujio immediately denied it. "Impossible, Lu Yin knows the Su secret art. There's no need for him to have any ideas about the chessboard." Zhou Xian was certain, "It definitely has something to do with the chessboard. I know Lu Yin too well, so please tell the family head that once Lu Yin has set his sights on a target he won't give up. Quickly hide the three immortals technique and take away everyone who knows it. We can't give him any excuses." He then left, but before he left he said, "Young master, based on my understanding of Lu Yin, it definitely has something to do with the chessboard. You have to be careful." Not long after, Sujio told Sujio about his conversation with Zhou Xian. Sujio frowned and looked at the sky with his hands behind his back. "Do you think Zhou Xian is right?" Sujio said, "Nonsense, the only use of the chessboard is to comprehend the Su secret art. Lu Yin has already comprehended the Su secret art for quite some time, so he came to the Su family. If what Zhou Xian said was true, then he's using the three immortals technique as a reason to cause trouble and demand compensation. There's no way he's just here to observe the chessboard. Sujiu also thought that it was impossible. What else could it be? Chapter 1942. Sujiu guessed, could it be war strategy theory? Or resources? I heard that he is greedy by nature. Su Laoyan shook his head. With his status he can easily obtain resources. There is no need for him to find trouble with our Su clan. Could it be? Su Laoyan thought of the Great Eastern Alliance. The Great Eastern Alliance had already unified the inner verse and outer verse, and it possessed the power to directly contend against the astral beast domain. Their next step would be the Cosmic Sea, but the master of the Cosmic Sea, Leon's armada, was Lu Yin's family. There was no need to consider the Cosmic Sea, so their next step would naturally be the Neoverse. Could it be that they were trying to seize the Neoverse and cause trouble for the Su family? Su Lao laughed, as that was impossible. He was overthinking things. The Neoverse was not the same as the Outerverse or the Outerverse. The Sirius sect and the Hall of Honor had both contributed to the Great Eastern Alliance's ability to resist the astral beast domain. Otherwise, the Great Eastern Alliance alone would not have been able to do so. In the Neoverse, the Court of Seven Names, the Sirius sect, the Mavis family, the Aurora Company, the Home of the Gods, and so on, which one of them was easy to provoke? There were already several half-martial ancestors. So, what right did the Great Eastern Alliance have to unify all of them? Even after thinking about it for a long time, he still couldn't figure out Lu Yin's goal. Don't worry about him. Since he has a goal, he will definitely come. I'll wait for him, Su Laoyan said confidently. Sujiu asked, then what about the Yin-Yang 3 immortal arts? Quite a few people in the family have learned it. Su Laoyan said helplessly, although that battle technique is exquisite, it lacks a matching cultivation method. At most, it can only be considered a starting move. What can it do? If he wants to use this opportunity to cause trouble for the Su clan, then he's underestimating us. Zhou Xian took Lu Yin for a stroll around the streets, which shocked the Su family's outsiders. The entire house of strategists was discussing this matter. Over the next 2 days, Lu Yin continued to wander around the Su family. He was interested in the battles between the Su family's disciples, so he especially watched them fight. Sujiu also came and accompanied him. The tactician family's battle strategy theory is indeed impressive. It can even simulate battle techniques. No wonder people say that the tactician family has the most battle techniques in the 7 courts. They truly live up to their reputation. Zhou Xian glanced at Sujiu. Sujiu smiled. They're all just for show. How can they compare to Alliance leader Lu's emptiness palm? Even the emissaries are afraid of that palm. Lu Yin smiled. Brother Su, you're praising me too much. I've only just broken through to become an emissary, but you're making me sound like a half-ancestor. Huh. Sujiu smiled faintly and didn't reply. In front of him, 2 cultivators from the Su family were engaged in a heated battle. Their cultivation levels were similar, and they were both disciples of the Su family. Although they were not direct descendants, they knew battle strategies and their fighting styles were similar. Suddenly, one of them raised his hand. His fingertips formed a strange pattern and pointed at his opponent. Lu Yin suddenly took a step forward and blurted out, "The 3 Yin-Yang Immortals technique?" Sujiu's gaze turned cold. "What's wrong, Brother Lu?" Lu Yin's expression turned ugly as he glared at Sujiu. "Brother Su, that's the Yin-Yang 3 Immortals technique. How does your family know it?" Sujiu frowned. "Yin-Yang 3 immortal arts? I don't know. It's just one of the many battle techniques that my Su clan has simulated." "Who simulated it?" Lu Yin shouted, attracting the attention of many. Sujiu said in a low voice, "Brother Lu, I respect you as a guest, but your attitude is too much." Lu Yin said sternly, "That's a senior's Yin-Yang 3 immortals technique. Back then I had a drinking contest with that senior and I specifically asked for his guidance. This battle technique is incomparably exquisite, and there aren't many in the entire universe who know it. How can your Su family learn it? How did you learn it? And you're teaching it to outsiders? The Su family must give me an explanation for this." Sujiu subconsciously glanced at Zhou Xian. This guy really knew Lu Yin well. As expected, he had used the Yin-Yang 3 Immortals technique to cause trouble. "Since Alliance Master Lu is unhappy, then please explain," Su said stiffly before leading Lu Yin to Su Elder Yen. Many people from the Su family had gathered, and they were facing Lu Yin and the second Night King. The atmosphere was tense. Lu Yin's expression was unfriendly as he stared at Su Elder Yen. Master Su, I'm not an unreasonable person. If you learn my battle technique, then I'll let it go. However, this battle technique came from a senior, and it's the blood and sweat of his entire son. It's only passed down to his disciples. Now that your Su family is openly teaching it to your own clan members, you're being too disrespectful to that senior. This is theft. Su Elder Yen frowned. Alliance Master Lu, everyone knows that our Su family simulates various battle techniques. That's why no matter who fights with our Su family members, they should try their best to hide their battle techniques. This is common sense. You said that the Yin Yang 3 Immortals technique was simulated, but that's your senior's problem. There's no need to cause trouble for the Su family. So the Su family doesn't plan on giving an explanation? Lu Yin's gaze darkened. Su Elder Yen clasped his hands behind his back. Alliance Master Lu is a guest and the Su family treats you with respect. However, if you're an evil guest, then the Su family is not afraid. Not too far away, an elder walked out. It was Elder Yun of the Su family, Su Yu, a powerhouse with a power level of over 1 million. He held a strange treasure, the unmoving chessboard, and stared at the second Night King cautiously. The entire Su family was mobilized, bringing with them an austere atmosphere. Lu Yin sneered, as expected of the 7 courts Su family. You're not even afraid of a half-ancestor. The expressions of the Su family members changed. Su Elder Yen was astonished. A half-ancestor? Lu Yin did not look at him and instead looked at Su Yu. Senior, have you heard of the 3 Yin Yang Immortals technique? Su Yu was confused. Nope. Lu Yin nodded. Then what about Jiuqi? Su Yu's expression changed. Half-ancestor Jiuqi? Su Elder Yan's eyes narrowed. Alliance Master Lu, what do you mean by that? Lu Yin raised his head. The 3 Yin Yang Immortals technique is a half-ancestor Jiuqi's ultimate technique, and he passed it down to his disciple Xianxia. Now your Su family is openly spreading it. Family head Su, I think that your Su family wants to exchange blows with Senior Jiuqi. Su Elder Yan's expression turned ugly, and Su Yu looked at him. What's going on? All of the Su family members had ugly expressions. Who would have known that the 3 Yin Yang Immortals technique was a half-ancestor's ultimate technique? If they had known, they would not have dared to spread it so brazenly, as it was akin to someone spreading war strategies. No, it was even more serious than that, as the Su family did not have a half-ancestor. Su Jiu was shocked. This was actually a half-ancestor's ultimate technique. Even Zhou Xian had not expected this, as the 3 Yin Yang Immortals technique was clearly an imitation of Xianxia's battle technique. Could Xianxia be a half-ancestor's disciple? How was that possible? If she was a half-ancestor's disciple, how could she be so weak? Alliance Master Lu, do you think that you can threaten my Su family by linking the 3 Yin Yang Immortals technique to half-ancestor Jiuqi? Who can prove that this battle technique belongs to half-ancestor Jiuqi? Su Elder Yen asked sternly. He had originally not cared about Lu Yin using this battle technique to threaten him, but if this battle technique belonged to a half-ancestor, then things were different. Lu Yin smiled. You can ask Xiaji. Su Elder Yan's heart sank as Lu Yin's attitude showed no fear. Could it really be a half-ancestor's battle technique? Su Yu's eyes flickered as asking Xiaji was naturally the best way to verify this. But if he did so, then Lu Yin would not be the only one who could use their weakness against them, but also the Xia family. They were all part of the 7 courts, but they were not as harmonious as they seemed. All of you leave, Su Yu ordered, dismissing everyone aside from Su Elder Yen. As he watched the crowd leave, Lu Yin knew that he had succeeded. The Su family did not even have the courage to ask Xiaji. Of course, regardless of whether they tried to verify it or not, the 3 Yin Yang Immortals technique was indeed Jiuqi's battle technique, so there was no problem. Alliance Master Lu, how do you plan on resolving this matter? Su Yu asked Lu Yin. Lu Yin met Su Yu's gaze. Senior, do you believe that the 3 Yin Yang Immortals technique is a half-ancestor battle technique? I believe it for now, Su Yu replied. Then Senior, please verify it, Lu Yin said. Su Yu frowned. As a rising star, even I, who was in seclusion all year round, have heard of Alliance Master Lu's great name. You unified the inner verse and outer verse. looked at the Neoverse from afar, led the Great Eastern Alliance to resist the Astral Beast domain, underwent a tribulation that caused the Astral Source universe to erupt, and even attracted the Blood Progenitor. All of these accomplishments are admirable, and my Su family has never disrespected Alliance Master Lu. I heard that Alliance Master Lu even knows the Su family's secret word, plan. Has the Su family caused any trouble for you while you were in the Astral Luster region? Lu Yin answered seriously, learning the secret word, plan, was a coincidence. If Senior could learn the Xia secret word plan, and the Hall of Honor secret technique, would you not learn it out of fear of the Xia family and the Hall of Honor? Besides, I didn't know that the secret word, plan, belonged to the Su family. At that time, I didn't have the qualifications to come into contact with the Seven Courts, and I had never even heard of it. Su Elder Yen interrupted, it's a fact that Alliance Master Lu learned the secret word, plan. Are you trying to deny it? Lu Yin looked at Su Elder Yen. I was the one who learned the secret word, plan. Now the Su family is the one who is recklessly spreading half-ancestor battle techniques. You can cause trouble for me because I learned the secret word, plan. But that's your right. Now I want to resolve this matter. What do you want? Su Elder Yen gritted his teeth. At the end of the day, one's fist was bigger. If Lu Yin was just a minor character, then he would not have dared to say such a thing. He would not have even dared to reveal that he had learned the secret word, plan. They were currently facing a half-ancestor, and if they had known earlier, they would not have dared to reveal that they had taught the Yin Yang 3 immortal arts. Now it was too late and they could only seal Lu Yin's mouth. Lu Yin's gaze turned cold and he looked at Su Yu. Actually, as long as I don't say anything and you don't say anything, as well as forbidding the Su family members who have learned the Yin Yang 3 immortal arts from using it, then it will be fine. A half-ancestor will not be able to keep an eye on the Su family. Senior Jiao Qi is addicted to alcohol, and as long as no one specifically tells him, he will not discover anything. Su Yu looked at Lu Yin deeply. Alliance Master Lu, how can we prevent you from telling half-ancestor Jiao Qi? Lu Yin replied, it's very simple. I want to observe the motionless chessboard left behind by the Su family's ancestor. Su Yu did not understand. Didn't you learn the secret word, plan? The motionless chessboard's only use is to allow others to learn the secret word, plan. It's useless to you. I know. Actually, I don't want to harm the Su family. Just as Senior said, I have the secret word, plan, but no one came to find trouble with me when I came to the Su family. This means that the Su family treats me like a friend, and I will naturally not harm my friends, Lu Yin said casually. Su Yu was confused as he could not understand Lu Yin's goal. Compared to Su Yu's confusion, Su Elder Yen was both confused and shocked. Zhou Xian had actually guessed Lu Yin's goal. Did he really understand this person that well? If that was the case, then Zhou Xian would be very useful. Chapter 1943. Lu Yin was like the sun in the sky, and even the Seven Courts wouldn't dare to say that they wouldn't come into contact with him in the future. They might even have conflicts or wars. Once Lu Yin reached a power level of 1,000,000 or even a half-step ancestor, would the Seven Courts be able to stay out of it? Xiaji alone wouldn't be able to threaten him. They had to be prepared. In the end, Su Yu agreed to let Lu Yin observe the motionless chessboard. Lu Yin had already comprehended the mystery of the Su word, so observing the motionless chessboard was meaningless. The Su family had a strange treasure, the motionless chessboard. The one Lu Yin was observing had been left behind by the progenitor Su Wangtian, and it was located in the Su family's ancestral home. As long as the Su family wasn't destroyed, the motionless chessboard wouldn't be taken away. Under Su Yu's lead, Lu Yin arrived at the Su family's ancestral home. Alliance Master Lu, please enter, Su Yu said solemnly, but it was impossible to tell if he was happy or angry. Lu Yin looked at the home and said, thank you. He then walked in. The Su family's ancestral home wasn't big, and it was just like a normal family's courtyard. Humans were born from nothing, and this place represented the Su family's nothingness. When Mr. Chumu had used the bamboo pillar's blood to allow Lu Yin to cross the river of time to observe the motionless chessboard, he had heard Su Wangtian's arrogant words. He hadn't expected the Su family's ancestral home to be so ordinary. Had Su Wangtian never lived here before? Was this just the Seven Courts Su family's ancestral home? There was a small house in the Su family's ancestral home that was pitch black. Lu Yin pushed open the door and entered before closing it behind him. He saw a dusty, motionless chessboard in the corner of the house, illuminating its surroundings with moonlight. This scene was very familiar, as Lu Yin had seen this same chessboard before. He approached it step by step, looking at the dusty pieces on the board. Back then he had been standing, but this time he was sitting on one side of the board. No matter who his opponent was, he was willing to play this game, even if it was Su Wangtian. He had defeated Progenitor Qin, who was at the same level as him, so he had nothing to fear. A formless breeze blew past and the dust on the chessboard was swept away. Lu Yin stared at the chessboard and subconsciously raised his hand, wanting to pick up a piece. Suddenly, his body trembled and his eyes glazed over. A moment later he appeared in outer space, surrounded by chess pieces. He was also a chess piece. He looked up and saw two giant figures sitting on either side of him. One of them laughed loudly. "You're definitely going to lose this time, ha? I don't think you've ever won against me, you're terrible at chess." Another deafening voice rang out, almost shattering Lu Yin's brain. Lu Yin stared at the two figures in shock, but he couldn't see their faces clearly. Beside them, chess pieces were moving. Someone was playing chess. Are they playing chess? Why was he a chess piece? He was clearly the player. Lu Yin opened his mouth to shout, but no sound came out. "Ah, what do you think? You're definitely going to win. So Wangtian, you will always be a weakling when it comes to chess. You can't even win against an ordinary person." Su Wangtian, never calculate when I play chess. I'll just take one step at a time. I'm not like you who can see through the game with a single glance. What's the point of playing chess? To us, chess is no fun at all. I don't want to play with you. You have to play with me unless you can beat me. What's the point? You'll never win if you play chess like this. Bullshit, I'm invincible. Who says I can't win? I'll show you. Lu Yin tried to jump out of the chessboard, but no matter what he did, he couldn't. He didn't know what this game represented, and he didn't know why someone who had probably died in ancient times was able to trap him. He only knew that he shouldn't be a chess piece but a chess player. Su Wangtian, you're going to lose. Impossible, I've never lost in my life. Oh, I made a wrong move. Let's start again. No, you can't go back. I made a wrong move. Let's start again. You can't go back. You've already lost. Bullshit, I'm definitely going to win. I made a wrong move. Let's start again. No. Start again. Oh. You're going against me, aren't you? Fine. Who said I can't go back? I, Su Wangtian, am going to do it. You have nothing to say. Then Lu Yin watched as the sky collapsed and the chessboard was destroyed. Strange fluctuations appeared in the surrounding space. I, Su Wangtian, have observed chess, played chess, retracted my moves and comprehended chess for hundreds of thousands of years. Finally, I created the secret technique Scattered Stars Chess. Throughout the universe, only I, Su Wangtian, can retract my moves. A person's life cannot be regretted, but I, Su Wangtian, will do so. Only I, Su Wangtian, can do so. Lu Yin's eyes widened and he saw the same dusty chessboard. He did not move but instead looked up. He was not in the sky but rather in the ancestral home. No one was playing chess and he was not someone's chess piece. What's going on with that scene? Was he dreaming of ancient times? Had he seen the reason why Su Wangtian had created the secret plan? Lu Yin looked at the chessboard and was speechless. So he had created the secret plan just so he could retract his moves? What did he mean by openly retracting his moves? Lu Yin stared at the chessboard and closed his eyes, trying to recall what had just happened, especially when Su Wangtian had wanted to retract his moves. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Lu Yin stayed in the ancestral mansion for half a month. In the outside world, Su Yu's expression was solemn. "Or how is Lu Yin?" Su Lao asked as he arrived outside the mansion. "He should have comprehended it," Su Yu replied. Su Lao was puzzled. He already learned the secret plan, what else can he comprehend? Su Yu recalled, "Do you think the secret plan is just like this?" Su Lao didn't understand. The younger generation was unfilial and couldn't truly grasp the secret plan. Rumor has it that the ancestor created the secret plan, and it contains the most profound meaning: retract chess. Su Lao's eyes flashed. Retract chess? Right, when I comprehended the secret plan, I seem to have heard the words retract chess. Retract chess is to return everything to its original state. Perhaps it involves time, but after the ancestor no one else has been able to grasp it. Suyu then looked towards the ancestral mansion. Perhaps Lu Yin is comprehending retract chess. Su Lao's expression turned ugly. Even the Su family couldn't grasp it, so how could Lu Yin? If Lu Yin grasped retract chess, the Su family would lose all face. Lu Yin sat beside the chessboard for half a month. When he opened his eyes, they were filled with confusion. That feeling was very clear, but he couldn't grasp it. He needed time. He definitely couldn't do it here. He raised his head and his die appeared. He tapped it and it slowly spun until it finally stopped at 5. That was meaningless. He tapped it again and the die slowly stopped at 6. Lu Yin's eyes moved and the scene changed. His consciousness appeared in that dark space, surrounded by spheres of light. He was in the Su family's ancestral mansion, and who knew if that old bastard Siyu would rush in. He had to seize the moment. Lu Yin fused into the nearest sphere of light. The next moment the scene in front of him became clear, and he saw a valley with a hubbub of voices. There were no less than 1 million people and they were all cultivators. Lu Yin was shocked as these were not ordinary cultivators. The moment he fused into this person's body, several terrifying auras swept past him. This person's power level was definitely above 1 million. Where else could there be such a powerful force? Could it be the Starfall Sea? Memories flooded into his mind. Lu Yin's expression changed, but he eventually calmed down. No wonder so many terrifying cultivators had gathered here. This was the Cosmic Tree Realm, an army that was going to invade the 5th mainland. It was led by the 4 Libras, which had gathered 4 half-progenitors, dozens of envoys and tens of thousands of space-exploring cultivators. Aside from that, there were nearly 1 million cultivators serving this army. This was the first time the Cosmic Tree Realm had come into contact with the 5th mainland since the decisive battle between the 5th and 6th mainlands during the Daoist Sex era. The person he had fused with was Long Quan. Long Quan was someone who was qualified to compete with Long Ku for the position of the White Dragon tribe's leader. When the true main bloodline had been destroyed, the Long Ku branch had taken the opportunity to take over. This had always been Long Quan's sore spot. As a branch bloodline, he did not think that the Long Quan branch was weaker than the Long Ku branch, but he had not grasped the right timing. Thus he had always been thinking of ways to suppress the Long Ku branch. When news of Long Tian and Long Shi being trapped in the ruler realm had spread, Long Quan had taken action. He had even wanted to suppress the main bloodline by suppressing Long Seven, who was disguised as the main bloodline's son-in-law. When Lu Yin had arrived at Dragon Mountain, he had also sent people to provoke Long Quan. This person was also the leader of the White Dragon tribe's extraction of astral elixir. Lu Yin had never expected to fuse with Long Quan's body. Back in the Cosmic Tree Realm, Long Quan had been an unreachable existence with a power level of over 800,000. Killing him would have been as easy as flipping his hand. Now, however, Lu Yin could actually fuse with this person's body, and he could control his life and death with a single thought. As he looked at the densely packed cultivators in the valley, Lu Yin continued to read Long Quan's memories, and his heart continued to sink. 4 demi-ancestors and dozens of envoys were enough to launch a terrifying war against the 5th mainland, and this was just the 4-way scale's excess strength. Most of their strength was focused on the battlefield at the back, while some remained in the higher realms. Even so, they were still able to draw out such a terrifying force. If the 4-way scales recruited the central realm, Lu Yin believed that their strength would double in a short period of time. It was hard to say how many demi-ancestors they had, but at the very least the number of envoys would double. According to Long Quan's information, the Wang family had already communicated with the Genesis Court, and they were about to enter the 5th mainland through the Genesis Court. At that time the war would begin. Of course, there was no guarantee that there would be a war as long as the 5th mainland handed Lu Yin over. Lu Yin's eyes flickered. He had expected the 4-way scales to act quickly, but he had not expected it to be this quick. He had not even made any preparations and the war had already begun. No, he had to stall for time so that he could at least gather enough strength to resist. But how should he do that? Lu Yin used Long Quan's vision to constantly scan the valley as he tried to think of a way. He no longer cared about the consumption of star essence in his cosmic ring, as he only wanted to stall for time. The only known passage from the Cosmic Tree Realm to the 5th mainland was the Genesis Court. That place was known as the New Void Corridor and it was not too far away from the valley. Above his head was the Wang family's floating palm. Chapter 1944. Destroying the new sky corridor was the fastest and most effective way to stall for time, but there would definitely be a half-ancestor guarding it. No one would underestimate the Lu family's status in the astral tree realm. Even after being exiled, there were still loyalists who were willing to sacrifice their lives for the Lu family. These people would do everything in their power to destroy the new sky corridor and prevent the expeditionary army from going to the abandoned lands. Even Long Quan couldn't get close to the corridor, as anyone who did would die. The Xinkong corridor was now out of the question. Lu Yin scanned the entire valley and suddenly noticed a strange creature that was conversing with an elder from the Wang family. There weren't only people from the Wang family in the area, but there were also people from the Bai, Xia and White Dragon clans. This strange creature was from the Genesis court, and it represented the court in communicating with the four cardinal scales. As long as the communication was successful, the expeditionary army would be able to enter the fifth mainland through the new sky corridor. Lu Yin's eyes lit up and he stepped into the void and disappeared. When he reappeared, he wasn't too far away from those people. He wasn't in a hurry to approach them, but instead walked over step by step, worried that he would be alerted. You're asking for too many resources. It's not like the Genesis court doesn't understand this part of the universe. The amount of resources consumed by the battlefield on the other side is astronomical. If we transfer a large amount of resources to you, it will affect that battlefield, Elder Wang Shang said. He had once gone to the fifth mainland alone to kill Lu Yin, but Hui Kong had forced him back. Because of this person, Hui Kong had used up all of the golden meteors he had nurtured in the technocracy, and he had been forced to return to the human domain. The strange creature had an indescribable shape, but it looked like a piece of metal with facial features and intelligent eyes. It spoke in a clear voice. Dean Sun said that this is the only condition. If you don't agree, then we won't open the new sky corridor. Us attacking the human domain in the abandoned lands should be a good thing for the Genesis court. Elder Qing Xing from the frigid Immortal sect interjected. The strange creature replied, the Genesis court isn't the one fighting the human domain. It's Eben City and we have a good relationship with them. As far as this old man knows, Zhou Xian has an extremely high status in the human domain. Back then he even appeared in your dimensional battlefield and entered through Eben City. I think he already has a good relationship with Eben City. If they join forces to deal with the Heaven Creation Academy, your days won't be easy, Wang Shang said. This is the only condition. If you don't agree, then we won't open the new sky corridor. Everyone felt helpless. It was impossible for a half-martial ancestor to lower their status to negotiate with the Sky Creation Court. Among them, Wang Shang was naturally the most suitable. After all, the Wang family had always been in contact with the Sky Creation Court. Off to the side, Long Kue had a complicated look in his eyes. He recalled how Long Qi, no Lu Xiaoxian had changed his name to Long Qi, had dominated the starry sky of trees. If only he was not Lu Xiaoxian but Long Qi. At this moment, Long Quan walked over. The few of them looked over but did not pay much attention to him. Long Kue's expression was uncomfortable. The two major branches of the White Dragon clan were competing with each other. He belonged to Long Ku's lineage, so he naturally rejected Long Quan. Senior. Long Quan faced Wang Shang and bowed respectfully. Wang Shang grunted. What are you doing here? Dragon Spring respectfully said, I brought a message from the Great Elder. Then he looked at the strange creature from the Sky Creation Court and said, it's for this guest. Wang Shang was puzzled. A message from Great Elder Anai Huang? Although the expeditionary force this time is led by the Wang clan after all, the passage to the abandoned land was provided by the Wang family. However, the strongest person was the White Dragon clan's Great Elder Anai Huang. She was an extremely strong half-ancestor and was infinitely close to the progenitor realm. She was on par with the myriad Dao ancestor. Even other half-ancestors had to be respectful in front of her. Since it's a message from Senior Anai Huang, just say it, Wang Shang said. Long Quan was in a difficult position and hesitated. Wang Shang's eyes flashed and he took the lead to leave. He knew that Long Quan wanted to talk to the people from the Sky Creation Court alone, so he did not suspect anything about Long Quan. The others also left. Long Kue frowned. Great Elder Anai Huang had actually entrusted a message to Long Quan. Was she planning to support Long Quan's lineage? To the Great Elder it did not matter who became the clan leader. During the ancestral worship ceremony, Great Elder Ni Huang had listed Long Qi as the successor of the White Dragon clan. She had not cared about Long Ku's lineage and had arranged a marriage between him and the Xia family of the Shenwu continent. This incident had caused Long Ku's lineage to have no advantage over Long Quan's lineage. Everyone knew that in Great Elder Ni Huang's heart, anyone could be the clan leader. Regardless of whether he was willing or not, Long Kue could only leave. Only Long Quan and the strange creature from the Sky Creation Court were left. No matter what you say, the condition is the condition, the strange creature said as it glanced at Long Quan. Long Quan looked at the strange creature and said, "I'm sorry." With that, he struck out with his palm, hitting the strange creature's body without any hindrance and breaking it into pieces. This scene shocked countless people. Wang Shang was the first to see it. His expression changed drastically as he shouted, "Long Quan, what are you doing?" Near and far many gazes looked over. Long Quan shouted angrily, "What Lu Xian? What Luyin? It's all fake. It's a trick that your frozen immortal sect, the Wang family, and the Shenwu continent have teamed up to deal with my White Dragon clan. Who doesn't know that Long Qi's innate talent is extraordinary and that he's going to be accepted as a disciple by ancestor Wuxia? Even the formation masters in Jian are amazed by his lock-breaking talent. It's all because you're afraid that my White Dragon clan will rise, so you set up this trap and made Long Qi carry the title of a dead man." Long Quan's words made Wang Shang, who had been about to attack, pause. Long Quan was not even afraid of death just to expose a lie. Generally speaking, people who said such things were telling the truth. If they were not afraid of death, why would they lie? Unless they were forced, but who would force Long Quan? He was someone who was qualified to compete for the position of the White Dragon clan's leader. And he was a powerhouse who had undergone 4 origin tribulations. More importantly, was this Long Quan's idea or Great Elder Ni Huang's? "Elder Long Quan, what nonsense are you spouting?" Long Kue shouted. Long Quan shouted, "Shut up, you've all been deceived. Long Qi is Long Qi, not Lu Xian at all. What general appointment platform talent? What Wang clan's identification? They're all fake. The 3 great clans of the 4 direction scales worked together to deceive even our White Dragon clan. Only I, Long Quan, discovered the truth." Long Quan then shouted, "Great Elder, this junior knows that you're watching, so please investigate the truth. Long Qi is Long Qi, not Lu Xian. He's Long Qi, the son-in-law of our White Dragon clan's main bloodline." Impudent. Nonsense. Wang Si walked out, her eyes filled with rage. She raised her hand and slapped down. At that moment, Great Elder Ni Huang walked out and stopped Wang Si. "Wait." She then looked at Long Quan with a gloomy expression. "Do you know what you just said? The truth of the ancestral worship was revealed long ago, and even Long Qi himself admitted it. Not only is he Lu Xian, but he's also a stowaway from the abandoned land. Who didn't see his provocation to the 4 direction scales when he broke through to the emissary realm?" Long Quan was sorrowful. He was betrayed by his own clan. How sad is that? Can't he provoke them? Great Elder, Long Qi needs the clan's protection the most right now, but the clan still wants to kill him? How much pain must he be in? This is all a scheme of the Bai, Wang and Xia clans. They're the ones who faked everything. Otherwise, how could there be such a coincidence? Long Qi's identity was exposed just as the old ancestor was lured away. They wanted to prevent the old ancestor from seeing the truth so that Long Qi would be killed. They're trying to kill the genius of our White Dragon clan. Great Elder, this junior is willing to die to prove the truth. After speaking, he slapped his forehead and died under everyone's shocked gazes. Great Elder Ni Huang didn't expect Long Quan to be so decisive. He really did want to die. This scene shocked everyone. Was it really as Long Quan had said? He really did look like a pitiful person who had been wronged and didn't hesitate to die to prove his innocence. However, it was also true that Long Qi was Lu Xian. Otherwise, Great Elder Ni Huang wouldn't have personally taken action. The White Dragon clan had lost all face because of Long Qi. But what was going on now? At this moment, even half-martial ancestors like Ni Huang and Wang Si were stunned. A person's death was more important than the heavens. Even an ant would care about his own life the most. He didn't hesitate to die to prove the truth. This would shake the hearts of countless people. At the very least, the expeditionary army's morale was gone. It was impossible for the people at the bottom to know so clearly about what had happened back then. Now that Long Quan had died, everyone was suspicious. A considerable number of them had believed Long Quan's words at that time. They had never seen Zhou Xian before, nor had they seen the battle of the four sides on the general appointment stage. They had only seen Long Quan seeking death. According to the analysis of facts, it was not impossible. Thinking about it, it made sense. The Lu clan was gone, so why was Zhou Xian still alive? The entire mountain valley was silent. No one even paid attention to the death of the strange creature from the Genesis courtyard. Everyone was staring at Long Quan's corpse. On this day, Long Quan had overturned the four cardinal scales worldview. Not only that, but Long Quan had also killed that strange creature from the Genesis courtyard. How would he explain this to the Genesis courtyard? The negotiations for resources had already reached a stalemate, and now they were even more difficult to negotiate. The expeditionary army had yet to leave the mountain valley, but their morale was completely gone. Long Kuei stared blankly at Long Quan's corpse. When had this branch family had become so unyielding? Elsewhere, Lu Yin had controlled Long Quan's body to commit suicide. The moment of his death, he didn't feel good either. His consciousness returned to his body through the dark space, and the black and white fog in his chest surged as if it had been stimulated. Took a lot of effort to calm down. Lu Yin's lips curled up. This time the cosmic trees were lively. Back then he had been confirmed as Zhou Xian, and the four cardinal scales had confirmed this. It was impossible to overturn this theory. He had only used Long Quan to annoy the four cardinal scales. Everything else aside, he had at least been able to stall for time. He had also been able to split the relationship between the White Dragon clan and the other three clans, causing them to have internal conflicts. The death of the creature from the Genesis courtyard had also delayed the progress of their negotiations. Lu Yin guessed that with this ruckus he might be able to buy himself half a year's time. Within that time he had to find a way to deal with the expeditionary army from the cosmic trees. If there was no other way, then he would directly start a war. First he had to confirm the Hall of Honor's stance. Chapter 1945. With the fifth mainland's strength, as long as they didn't step out of the progenitor realm, they should be able to deal with a half-step ancestor. Lu Yin sighed and decided not to think about the cosmic tree domain for now. Right, he checked his cosmic ring to see how many star essence he had spent. He had wasted a lot of time in that valley, and he had even taken control of Long Quan's body to commit suicide. 20 billion. Lu Yin's face twitched and his expression turned ugly. It wasn't that he had 20 billion left, but that he had spent 20 billion. That was 20 billion. 20 billion, and it was gone just like that. Lu Yin closed his eyes in pain. He was out of money again. The only consolation was that this money had been well spent. It had definitely been well spent. He put down his cosmic ring and stopped thinking about this annoying matter. He raised his hand and his die appeared. He tapped it as cultivation was still more important. This time things went smoothly. At 4 o'clock he entered the time's top space. After entering the space, Lu Yin immediately extended the time to nearly a year. He then sat down cross-legged and recited the primogenitor's scripture. At the same time he recalled the time when he had played against Su Wangtian and the feeling of wanting to regret a move. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Finally half a year passed. Lu Yin suddenly opened his eyes as he still felt like he was missing something. Although reciting the primogenitor's scripture had allowed him to touch upon a thread, it would take him a very long time to fully comprehend it. He didn't have that much time to waste. When he thought about this, Lu Yin reluctantly took out the root of wisdom. The astral source in his palm boiled and he used the root of wisdom to brew tea. A complete root of wisdom could only be used to brew 3 cups of tea. After the first sip, Lu Yin recalled that feeling and it immediately became much clearer. It was as if he was experiencing it himself. He had thought that the planned secret arts regret move was related to time, but in reality, it had nothing to do with time. Instead it was related to space. After drinking the root of wisdom tea, it was as if he had been enlightened. At the same time he recited the primogenitor's scripture and used the hazy voice to impart enlightenment. Lu Yin finally grasped that thread, but it still wasn't enough. He drank another sip of the root of wisdom tea and after a month, his eyes shone with a divine light. He stood up and waved his hand, distorting the void. At the same time the star-scattered chessboard appeared beneath him. Plan secret art. Scattered star chess regret move. Lu Yin stared at the distorted void and the star chessboard. The star chessboard's regret move. He had clearly distorted that part of the void, but he had used the secret of plan to perfectly restore it. This was the secret of plan's repentance. The so-called retracting move was to use its influence on space to perfectly restore it. Anyone who made a move would definitely affect the space around them. Even the weakest ordinary person would affect the air around them. Retracting chess was to restore this effect. This was retracting chess reverting to the previous step. It had to be said that Su Wangtian was truly a genius. He had created such a terrifying secret technique just to reverse a move. Lu Yin suddenly developed a great interest in countermeasure Wangtian. Now that he had comprehended the strategy secret regretful chess, there was only one last sip of wisdom root tea left. Lu Yin drank it all in one gulp, recited the primogenitor's scripture, and then began to cultivate the art of serious. Serious art was the inheritance of progenitor Qin. He wanted to cultivate it to the highest level as quickly as possible so that he could unravel the secret of the pattern beneath his feet. When he'd become an emissary, he'd use the primogenitor's scripture to cultivate the serious art to 10,000 stars. Now that he had the wisdom root tea, he didn't know how many stars he could cultivate. As the scenery changed, Lu Yin returned to the Su family's ancestral home with an excited expression. With the wisdom root, the serious art could now revolve 35,000 stars, which was an increase of more than 20,000 stars. With the wisdom root and the primogenitor's scripture, there had been a qualitative change. If he had 2 more wisdom roots, he was confident that he could reach the peak of the 5th level in the shortest amount of time and advance towards the 6th level of the serious art. It had only been 20 years since he'd started cultivating the serious art. When progenitor Qin had created the serious art, he'd managed to condense more than 30,000 stars. How much time had it taken? His predecessor had planted the tree while his successor reaped the shade. Lu Yin had benefited greatly from progenitor Qin. He pushed open the door and walked out. Su Yu and Silao Yen had been waiting outside the ancestral home the entire time. When they saw Lu Yin appear, they stared at him. "What's wrong?" Lu Yin was puzzled. Silao Yen asked nervously, "Alliance Master Lu, did you just comprehend something?" Lu Yin didn't try to hide it. "I think so." "What did you comprehend?" Silao Yen asked anxiously. He was both nervous and expectant. Lu Yin raised his hand and a stone appeared in his palm. He casually tossed it out and the star chessboard appeared beneath his feet. Secret word, retraction. The stone that had been tossed out returned to its original path without any deviation. This scene seemed ordinary, but it shocked Su Yu and Silao Yen greatly. This was because the stone had not returned to its original state, but rather reverted to its original state. Just like the word retraction. Retracting one's move and returning it to its original state was retraction. Yu was shocked. "I never thought that I would be able to see retraction in my lifetime." Lu Yin was puzzled. "You guys didn't comprehend retraction?" He had thought that someone from the Su family would be able to comprehend it. After all, the chessboard had been left untouched for so long, and Su Yu and the others had been watching it every day. How could they not comprehend it? Su Yu shook his head. "Our aptitudes are far inferior to Alliance Master Lu's, and we haven't comprehended retraction. We can't sense that concept at all." "Alliance Master Lu, how did you comprehend retraction?" Silao Yen asked hopefully. "You haven't comprehended retraction? How did you comprehend it if you didn't?" Lu Yin blinked. This was interesting. "Su Wangtian taught me." Su Yu and Silao Yen were stunned, unable to react. "Alliance Master Lu, what did you just say?" Silao Yen asked again. Lu Yin shrugged. "When I saw the chessboard, I heard someone called Su Wangtian tell me about retraction. He was also playing against someone with the surname Yu." At this point, Lu Yin recalled that someone with the surname Yu should be an ancestor of the Yu family. Someone who could play against Su Wangtian was also a progenitor. There were actually quite a few progenitors in human history. There were 6 continents, and even if each continent only had a few progenitors, there were still dozens of them in total. Su Yu and Silao Yen might not have believed Lu Yin's words, but Lu Yin had revealed the identities of both parties, so they had no choice but to believe him. According to the ancient records, the Su secret word had indeed been created because their ancestor had played against a progenitor with the surname Yu. This was the Su family's top secret, and even the Yu family didn't know about it. Yu was excited. You heard the ancestor's voice? Lu Yin nodded. I heard it the last time when I comprehended the Su secret word. This time it's even clearer. Su Wangtian was the ancestor of the Su family, and Lu Yin had heard the ancestor's voice. Alliance Master Lu, what else did the ancestor say? Su asked anxiously. Lu Yin rubbed his chin. He said quite a bit, but I don't really remember. I'm only thinking about comprehending retraction. I can't remember anything else for now. Su Yu hurriedly said, Su Wangtan is the ancestor of the Su family. Alliance Master Lu, please think about it carefully. The Su family will be eternally grateful. Su Lao frowned as this sentence put the Su family in a passive position. Su Yu was elder Yun of the Su family, and he had a high status. Although he also wanted to know what the ancestor had said and wanted to comprehend retraction, this was not the way to go. However, Su Yu had already spoken, and he would definitely be led by the nose when facing Lu Yin. Lu Yin realized that ever since he had used the literary prison to hang the Wen family, there was no turning back. He had used Lu Hao to hang the sword sect, used his feet to hang the serious sect, used the decomposition of ancient materials to hang the city, used the Ku family to hang the Su family, and now used the Su secret word to hang the Su family. There was nothing in the universe that he could not hang. Oh, it should be fishing. He had hooked many big fish. Su Lao's heart sank when he saw Lu Yin's expression change. When facing someone like Lu Yin, it was best not to give him any leverage or it would be troublesome. Unfortunately, the Su family's leverage was now in Lu Yin's hands. The Su secret word was fine as they could just not comprehend retraction. Since Lu Yin could comprehend it, it was possible that no one in the Su family would be able to do so in the future. What attracted the Su family the most was the ancestor's words. What had the ancestor said? Or had Lu Yin made it up? The key was that there were no records and no one in the family had comprehended retraction. The possibility of it being made up was not high, as Lu Yin had accurately stated the identities of both sides. This was the most troublesome part. As the Su family's patriarch, he would rather not know what the ancestor had said than be passive. Unfortunately, Su was too concerned about this. Senior, is there a place for me to rest? I'm dizzy and the ancestor said many things. I need time to sort out my thoughts, Lu Yin said painfully. Su hurriedly replied, all right. Immediately arrange a place for Alliance Head Lu to stay. Su Lao was helpless. Alliance Head Lu, please. By the way, why does the Su family like to play chess? Lu Yin suddenly asked. Su was stunned and his expression turned solemn. The ancestor liked to play chess. Chess is like life, so the ancestor must have wanted the younger generation to find the true meaning of life through chess. Every Su family member is adept at chess and scheming. Su Lao nodded. This was why the Su family could compete with the Hui family. In terms of influence, the Su family even surpassed the Xia family in the Seven Courts. This was because there were many outsiders in the Su family, and this was one of the benefits of playing chess. Only by playing chess would one know how to scheme. Of course, another reason was that it was easier to comprehend the Su secret word. Lu Yin grunted and left with Su Lao. He wanted to laugh at Su Yu's words. Although he didn't know Su Wangtian well, it wasn't hard to tell from his words that he wasn't trying to comprehend anything. He just liked to play chess and he was particularly bad at it. The worse he was, the more he wanted to find someone to play with him. The more he played, the more he lost. In the end, he was forced to create the Su secret word, regret. It was just a hobby, but it would affect the lives of his descendants. Perhaps behind many brilliant achievements, there was often a very small reason. That night, Zhou Xian met Su Lao again. Su Lao stared at her. You know Lu Yin very well? Zhou Xian panicked, but she nodded. Yes, I know him very well. Su Lao's eyes narrowed. What should I do if I want to obtain some information from him? Zhou Xian hesitated for a moment before mustering her courage. That depends on how important the information is to the patriarch. Does Lu Yin know how important it is? And if he does? Su Lao asked. Zhou Xian shook her head. Then it'll be troublesome. Unless the Su family has something that Lu Yin cares about, it'll be very costly to obtain information from him. Most importantly, even if we do pay the price, we might not be able to obtain the information in a short period of time. If I'm not wrong, then Lu Yin will leave tomorrow. Chapter 1946. So soon. Su Lao was shocked when he heard Zhou Xian's guess. Zhou Xian was certain. He'll definitely leave. The more important the information is to you, the more anxious he'll be to leave. It's not that he's afraid of the Su family, but rather that he wants to keep us in suspense. This has always been his tactic. How do we get that information? Silao asked. Zhou Xian thought about it. Through the people around him. That's the most effective method. Explain. Zhou Xian explained. Lu Yin has ambition that most people don't, but his weakness is also very obvious. He cares too much about the people around him. We don't want to use them to threaten him, but rather we want to treat them as Lu Yin himself. Silao immediately understood. This is a tactic. Zhou Xian nodded. Unless there's something that Lu Yin really needs, that's the only way. Of course, you can also wait for Lu Yin to ask for help from the Su family. He'll definitely ask for our help one day. Otherwise, you can just directly ask for resources in exchange. There's no need to keep us in suspense. Silao looked at Zhou Xian. Seems like you understand Lu Yin very well. Zhou Xian gritted his teeth and bowed. Sir, this lowly one wishes to help the family. I once thought that I had no chance, but if the family wants to deal with Lu Yin, this lowly one has a way. I've placed someone by his side. Silao was shocked. You can place someone by Lu Yin's side? Zhou Xian replied. She's not someone important and she can't directly contact Lu Yin. However, she can obtain quite a bit of information about the Great Eastern Alliance. She's little Nan Xianxia's personal maid. No one knows that she's been working for me for a long time. Silao did not interrupt Zhou Xian, and Zhou Xian relaxed. He knew that his words were valuable, so he continued. When the Zhou family wanted to take over Myriad City, the easiest way was for me to marry Xianxia. In order to move her, I had to understand her, so I used many methods to obtain little Nan. Through her, I knew Xianxia's every move. If the family wants to know about the Great Eastern Alliance, I'll have little Nan pay close attention. Silao sized up Zhou Xian as he had not expected this person to be so useful. Zhou Xian spoke in a low voice. Lu Yin lied about being my friend and used my name to visit the family, but in reality he was just looking for an excuse to attack the family. Now that he has achieved his goal, once this matter spreads, I will no longer have a place in the family. He didn't even consider my life or death, so please give me a chance to take revenge. Silao Yan did not doubt Zhou Xian's words. If word got out that Lu Yin had used the three Immortals' yin-yang technique to observe the motionless chessboard, Zhou Xian would be the first to bear the brunt of it. This was because he was the one who had given the three Immortals' yin-yang technique to his family. Even if his intentions were good, others would not think the same. Moreover, everyone thought that he was close to Lu Yin and treated him as a target for bullying and cursing. Silao Yan pondered for a moment and said, "Stay with me for the time being. Don't contact Xiaonan in any way." "Yes," Zhou Xian replied excitedly. His excitement was not an act, as it was real. It was not because Silao Yan had placed him in an important position, but rather because of Silao Yan's attitude. Generally speaking, Silao Yan would leave capable people to his son, Sujiu, but he had not placed someone who could deal with Lu Yin by Sujiu's side. There was only one reason. Silao Yan did not have the slightest bit of confidence in dealing with Lu Yin. It was inevitable that he would deal with Lu Yin, but if he lost in the future it would not affect Sujiu. This was why Zhou Xian was so excited. Fang was now Lu Yin's subordinate, and Xiaonan was a bargaining chip that Lu Yin had given him as a bridge to contact the Great Eastern Alliance. The next morning, Lu Yin bid farewell to the Su family and left. The expeditionary army in the Astral Tree Galaxy was just around the corner, and he did not know if his stalling would be effective. Silao Yan had not expected Zhou Xian to know Lu Yin so well, and he would leave whenever he wanted. "Alliance Master Lu, don't you want to stay for a few more days? It won't be too late to leave after touring the Starfall region." Tiu was the most reluctant. Anyone else would have been imprisoned and interrogated, but the Su family did not have the ability to deal with Lu Yin. Lu Yin was helpless. This junior would like to stay in the Su family and experience the bearing of a progenitor, but I really have important matters to attend to. Senior, please rest assured that this junior will return. Silao Yan's eyes flashed as he did not understand what Lu Yin meant. Siyu said many more things to persuade Lu Yin to stay, but Lu Yin still refused. In the end he could only send Lu Yin out of the Starfall region. After Lu Yin left, Siyu's face sank. "With the second Night King following him, we can't keep him here." Silao Yan was shocked. "Elder, you want to act against him?" Siyu looked at him. The Su secret art is only the true Su secret art when one reaches reversal. You must remember that the Su family is different from the Yu, Shi and Hui families. Our ancestor Su Wangtian is one of the top powerhouses of the Third Mainland. He is also a progenitor and no one can compare to him. The Su secret art is far more powerful than you can imagine. If not for the second Night King, I would definitely have imprisoned this kid. Su Lao Yen sighed in relief. It was fortunate that the second Night King was here, or they would have been in big trouble. He glanced at Su Yu. Although this elder was powerful, he was never a candidate for the patriarch position. Back then he didn't know the reason, but now he knew. This elder didn't have the spirit to compete with the Su clan. He was more like a member of the Xia clan, especially like Xia Yi. Lu Yin was easy to capture, but the people behind him were not. When Xia Ji had tried to deal with Lu Yin, he had attracted Elder Gong and the Sage Heavenly Master. Now that Lu Yin's influence had risen again, even the entire Seven Courts might not be able to stop Lu Yin's people, let alone the Su family. Su Lao Yen smiled bitterly. He had never thought that he would one day be able to relax because of a powerful enemy. Outside the Starfall region, Lu Yin walked out. He wanted to discuss with Wang Wen and the others how to deal with the Astral Tree domain, but before he could get far he saw a familiar figure blocking his path. It was Xia Hua, the leader of the Shi family. Lu Yin had not expected Xia Hua to be here. Alliance Master Lu, did your trip to the Su family go smoothly? I've been waiting for you for a long time. Xia Hua was dressed in revealing clothes and had a seductive smile, but it was useless against Lu Yin. He was confused. Why are you waiting for me, Leader Xia? Xia Hua smiled. Has Alliance Master Lu ever thought of visiting the Shi family? Lu Yin blinked. He had thought about it before, but when he saw the expedition army in the Astral Tree domain, he realized that he did not have much time, so he had not planned on visiting the Shi family. In the end, there was nothing in the Shi family that attracted him. It seems like Alliance Master Lu has no intention of visiting the Shi family. It makes sense for me to wait here. Xia Hua smiled. Lu Yin was helpless. I've kept you waiting, but I have something to do. Next time I'll visit the Shi family. Xia Hua looked at Lu Yin with bright eyes. Alliance Master Lu has visited every family in the Seven Courts, but you have not visited the Shi family. If word gets out, people will think that we have a grudge against you, which is not a good thing. Just treat it as a favor to the Shi family. Why? Lu Yin frowned. Leader, you can tell me directly. There's no need to visit the Shi family. To be honest, I really do have something urgent to attend to. Xia Hua twirled her hair. It seems like there's nothing in the Shi family that can attract Alliance Master Lu. Actually, Alliance Master Lu doesn't know much about the Shi family. Our battle with the Spectre race in the past affected many areas, and even though we managed to destroy them, we still declined. However, she paused. Although we declined, we still have many spoils of war and they all belong to the Spectre race. Lu Yin's heart skipped a beat. Spoils of war from the Spectre race? Xia Hua's lips curled up. That's right. There are many spoils of war from the Spectre race, and our Shi family has quite a bit of death energy as well. Lu Yin was tempted. That's right. Apart from the death aura, my Shi clan likes to collect bones. The name of the clan is called the Bone Plains and everything is made up of bones. There might be something that Union Head Lu is interested in. For example, the bones of Ancestor Realm experts. Xia Hua said word by word. Lu Yin was shocked. You have the bones of a progenitor? Xia Hua rolled her eyes. Perhaps, but I'm not sure either. The Bone Plains declined in my generation, and even the Xia family didn't dare to say that they could compete with the Shi family. Alliance Master Lu should be clear about how powerful the Spectre race is. Our Shi family can fight them to the death and anything is possible. Lu Yin nodded. Since Patriarch Xia has invited me, it would be disrespectful of the Shi family if I don't go. Patriarch Xia, please. Xia Hua smiled. Alliance Master Lu, please. The second Night King quietly followed Lu Yin and looked at Xia Hua. The He family. He seemed to have heard of them before, but they shouldn't be that famous. However, the Spectre race had a resounding reputation, and this Shi family could actually fight against the Spectre race. He remembered that during the era of the Daoist sect, the Spectre race had not been humanity's greatest enemy. They had only been a power with a unique cultivation method. Now, the Spectre race had joined the Neo-Human Alliance and become humanity's mortal enemy. During the era of the Daoist sect, the The Spectre race had been very powerful and had not been any weaker than the frigid Immortal sect. They had also been good at concealment, but now they had declined as well. Lu Yin had followed Xiahua to the Bone Sea, and he had not hidden it from the Su family. They were all from the 7 courts, and as long as he was within their range, Lu Yin's whereabouts could not be hidden from others. In the entire 5th mainland, there was no one else who could visit the 7 courts like Lu Yin and influence them. Lu Yin's current status was extremely high. The Bone Sea was a vast expanse of white. It was not the white of snow, nor was it the white of color. Instead, it was the white of bones, and it was strangely white. This was the first time Lu Yin had seen a land made of bones, and he could not figure out where the Shi family had found so many bones. "Where did you get these bones from?" Lu Yin asked as he thought about it. Xiahua replied, "They were collected. When the Shi family was at its peak, there were many people and there were many powers that were loyal to the Shi family. It was normal for us to collect some bones, and they only gave us bones as gifts." "They're not ordinary bones." Lu Yin sighed. Xiahua smiled. "Of course, they're all bones of cultivators. Otherwise, how could they support the Shi family? Alliance Master Lu, please." Lu Yin scanned the Bone Sea and then followed Xiahua inside. Although the Shi family had declined, they still had some experts, and one of them was a cultivator named Xianxia. However, he was still far inferior to the other families, and Xianxia's power level did not even reach 900,000, which disappointed Lu Yin. Although there were many cultivators in the entire Shi family, the only direct descendant was Zhou Xian. Chapter 1947. Lu Yin had originally thought that even if the Shi clan was built on bones, they would at least decorate the surface, such as using dirt to cover the bones. However, he had underestimated the Shi clan. The bone plains were actually real bones. When he walked on the bones, he always felt that it was strange. "Alliance Master Lu, are you tired? You don't look very energetic." Xianxia approached Lu Yin, bringing a fragrance with her. Lu Yin pursed his lips. "Maybe. Then I'll help you rest." Xianxia's eyes lit up. Lu Yin quickly declined. "Clan leader Xia, when will you bring me to see the Spectre clan's items?" Xiahua giggled and glanced at Xianxia before looking at Lu Yin. "Is Alliance Master Lu in such a hurry? Or do you want little Xian to help you rest first? You can go after you've rested up." "No need, I'm really in a hurry," Lu Yin urged. Xiahua felt that it was a pity. "All right then. Please follow me, Alliance Master Lu." She then glanced at Xianxia disappeared. Not long after, Xiahua and Xianxia brought Lu Yin to a spacious plain of bones. Xianxia was standing nearby. When they arrived, the bones beneath Xianxia's feet shifted, revealing a bottomless pit. Xiahua walked over. "Alliance Master Lu, please." Lu Yin led the second Night King and followed Xiahua into the pit. Aside from Xiaji, no one else in the 7 courts could threaten the second Night King. Lu Yin was not worried, and he could not think of any reason why the Shi clan would want to deal with him. The pit led straight to the center of the bone plains, and there was a spacious area that looked like a palace. In front of Lu Yin was a large door made of bronze. "Is this where you live?" Lu Yin asked. The bronze door was 1,000 meters tall, so one could imagine how large the space inside was. The entire bone plains did not seem to be filled with bones, and there was a huge space inside. Xiahua's entire demeanor changed when they arrived, and her expression became solemn. Xianxia was the same, as if they were on a pilgrimage. "My Shi clan lives on top of the bone plains. This is where the Spectre clan's items are stored." Xianxia spoke for the first time, and his tone was heavy. He walked over to the door, placed a hand on it, and slowly pushed it open. When the door was fully opened, Lu Yin could clearly see the interior. Sure enough, it was a palace. Although it couldn't be considered luxurious, it carried an unparalleled dignity and grandeur. One couldn't see the end of it, but the strange thing was that there wasn't a single person in it. As the door opened, the entire palace lit up. What illuminated the palace was a strange type of stone that emitted a fluorescent glow. Many little drops made an ocean, making the palace bright but not dazzling. It even had a rather comfortable warmth that instantly dispelled the coldness from the bottom of the palace. Xiahua walked into the palace and faced Lu Yin. "Alliance leader Lu, you will discover the true Shi family here." Lu Yin was intrigued. "The real Shi clan? Does this mean that our previous understanding of the Shi clan can be overturned?" Xiahua smiled. "Sure. Lu Yin was taken aback. He had only asked casually and he had not expected Xia Hua to respond in such a manner. At that moment he re-evaluated Xia Hua. Xia Hua was also sizing up Lu Yin. They stared at each other for a moment before Lu Yin smiled and stepped into the palace. The entire palace is filled with spectre race items? Lu Yin asked. He did not use his domain to sweep through the area as that would be impolite. Wendy Yushan had reminded him a long time ago that he should not use his domain carelessly outside, as it could easily cause misunderstandings. He still remembered this advice. Xianxia and Xianxia remained at the door, and only Xia Hua, Lu Yin and the second Night King entered the palace. After hearing Lu Yin's question, Xia Hua suddenly said, "Alliance leader Lu, have you ever wondered why the Shi clan is enemies with the Spectre race? We would rather fight to the death than let the Spectre race off?" Lu Yin was flabbergasted. He had indeed thought about it. Aside from being interested in the Spectre race's items and the progenitor's bones, he had also wanted to ask why the Shi clan and the Spectre race had become mortal enemies. Why? Lu Yin was curious. Xia Hua smiled. Alliance leader Lu became famous during the final battle of the Sovereign Tournament. You reigned supreme among your peers, and that power is very similar to the Spectre races. Lu Yin's gaze turned cold. I don't understand what clan leader Xia is saying. The second Night King looked up and stared at Xia Hua. That's right. Alliance leader Lu's power comes from the same source as the Spectre races. Have you never considered that since the Shi clan is so hostile to the Spectre race, wouldn't we also be hostile to you, Alliance leader Lu? Xia Hua stared at Lu Yin, not caring about the second Night King's threat. Does Alliance leader Lu trust that old senior beside you so much? Do you think he can protect you? Alliance leader Lu, have you ever considered that the Shi clan will fight to the death to destroy the Spectre race? And you, whose power comes from the Spectre race and is even stronger than the Spectre race, have come to the Shi clan alone? Are you not worried? The second Night King suddenly reached out and grabbed Xia Hua by the neck, his eyes filled with killing intent. You're courting death. Lu Yin's expression turned solemn, as Xia Hua's question reminded him that he had never considered this issue from the perspective of the Spectre race. He had always believed that he had not been transformed by the death aura and had nothing to do with the Spectre race. However, to others, his power was definitely that of the Spectre race, or at least they came from the same source. He had neglected this issue, which was why he had come to the Shi clan without worry. How could a Spectre race member enter the Shi clan with peace of mind? Xia Hua was grabbed by the neck by the second Night King and lifted up, her face flushed red. With her strength, she was not even a child in front of the second Night King. Clan leader Xia, were you trying to intimidate me? Does the Shi clan have the strength to contend with the second Night King? Lu Yin asked. At this point there was nothing for him to worry about. His domain swept out and scanned the entire bone sea. His domain swept past Xianxia and Xianxia. The two sensed it, but they did not do anything. This made Lu Yin feel that the Shi clan was strange, and he became even more vigilant. Xia Hua could not speak. The second Night King loosened his grip on her. Speak. Xia Hua coughed a few times and the veins on her forehead bulged. Alliance leader Lu, I told you that you will see the true Shi clan here. Stop pretending. The second Night King barked. He was about to attack Xia Hua again when an indescribable chill enveloped his entire body. In an instant his body stiffened and Lu Yin and Xia Hua disappeared from beside him. The only thing he could see was a pair of golden eyes that appeared a few meters in front of him. An intense fear assaulted him, accompanied by a bone-deep murderous intent. The second Night King's scalp went numb and his pupils shrank. His spiritual force erupted as he released all of his strength. He felt an unprecedented sense of danger. What kind of person could make him feel so threatened? He was the second Night King, someone who had cultivated for a long time and was second only to a half-martial ancestor. The second Night King stared at the pair of golden eyes, and the more he looked, the greater his fear became. It replaced everything, including the heavens and even the heavens. Whoosh, whoosh. Balls of spiritual force appeared around the second Night King's body. His eyes were cold and filled with madness as he activated his sourcebox array, the 10 Hells slaughtering array. This was his strongest spiritual force attack. Suddenly, the pair of golden eyes disappeared and reappeared behind him. They continued to stare at him until the second Night King's head felt like it was about to explode. He could no longer think about anything else. Lu Yin, the Shi clan or the Guyan had nothing to do with him. All he wanted to do was break through those golden eyes and escape from that fear. He was the second Night King, so when had he ever been afraid? Just as the 10 hells slaughtering array was about to explode, the golden eyes suddenly shrank. A figure walked out, bringing with it the sound of chains scraping against the ground. It was like a grim reaper as a black stream of energy wrapped around the 10 balls of spiritual force, cutting off the second Night King's control of the array. The second Night King tapped out with his finger, using the Night King's immortal finger to freeze everything. The figure looked up and a black stream of energy converged in front of him. The second Night King's attack was completely ineffective. Relying on the accumulated power of time, it's all for naught. A raspy voice rang out as the black stream of energy transformed into chains that coiled around the second Night King's finger. The second Night King was shocked and tried to break the chains, but he found that he could not. Finally, the black stream of energy formed a chain that bound him and pierced through the void. In an instant, the surroundings lit up. It was still the same palace, and the second Night King could clearly see his surroundings. He saw Lu Yin looking at him in shock and Sierra Hua smiling faintly. Not far behind Lu Yin, there was a figure hidden within the black stream of energy, revealing only a pair of golden eyes. It was this person who had easily defeated the second Night King and bound him in the void. At that moment, Lu Yin finally reacted. The second Night King had suddenly attacked, but he had not noticed anything. By the time he had seen clearly, the second Night King had already been bound. Lu Yin was shocked. Who could so easily subdue the second Night King? It had to be a half-ancestor. Outside of that, only his senior brother, the head inquisitor, had been able to do so. Did the Shi clan have such a powerful force? Lu Yin suddenly turned around and saw a figure with a pair of golden eyes. He blurted out, "Spectre race." The palace was silent. Lu Yin could even hear himself gasping for breath. He had not expected to see someone from the Spectre race in the Seven Courts Shi clan. The golden eyes were the symbol of the Spectre race. Lord Inquisitor. Sierra Hua bowed respectfully. Lu Yin's eyes twinkled. Inquisitor? Aside from the Interstellar Tribunal's head inquisitor, there was only one other person with such a title who was related to the Spectre race. The Umbral Tribunal's head inquisitor. Ever since he had attacked Kuan-Zhe with his eyes, Lu Yin had investigated the Umbral Tribunal. The Umbral Tribunal was an organization under the Neo-Human Alliance. It had not originally existed, but the Spectre race had joined the Neo-Human Alliance. The Umbral Tribunal was the Spectre race. The Umbral Tribunal's head inquisitor was naturally the Spectre race's patriarch. The second Night King was bound in the void, and he stared at the Umbral Tribunal's head inquisitor in shock. He could sense that this person was not a half-ancestor, but he had been able to suppress him as easily as the Interstellar Tribunal's head inquisitor. Lu Yin stared at the Umbral Tribunal's head inquisitor as he approached. With every step, the black stream of energy dissipated, as if it had merged into the void. When the Umbral Tribunal was less than 3 meters away from Lu Yin, the black stream had completely dissipated, revealing a middle-aged man with a scholarly expression. Chapter 1948. This person's temperament was indescribable. There was a hint of wickedness in his elegance, but there was also an indescribable sense of trust in him. His black hair had a few strands of white, and he held a black scythe that was wrapped in chains. As he walked, the chains clanged against each other. He was the Umbral Tribunal's head judge. "My name is Tian Do." The head judge met Lu Yin's gaze and spoke slowly. His voice was deep and there was no sense of oppression. Even so, Lu Yin did not dare to relax. He was the strongest member of the Spectre clan, someone who could easily subdue the second Night King. However, after some thought he realized that there was no point in being vigilant. He could only blame himself for being careless and coming to the Spectre clan's base alone. No one would have thought that the Spectre clan's mortal enemy, the Shi family, would actually be the Spectre clan's base. "The Seven Courts helped you cover your tracks," Lu Yin sighed. The head judge smiled. "The more unimaginable something is, the more we need to do it. For example, no one would have thought that the Great Eastern Alliance's Alliance Master has protected countless lives in the Outerverse and is praised by the Fifth Mainland. The Hall of Honor's director is also the master of the Spectre clan." The second Night King's eyes widened and he looked at Lu Yin in shock. This person was actually the master of the Spectre clan? Lu Yin's eyes narrowed. "I didn't admit it." Tiando smiled. She made it very clear. She didn't say that you were in the Shi family. Tiando looked at Lu Yin. Is there something you're unhappy about, master? Lu Yin frowned. We didn't tell you because we didn't want to make things difficult for you. My Spectre clan defected to the Neo-Human Alliance in order to survive. If you know where we are, shouldn't you tell the Hall of Honor? If you don't, doesn't that mean that you're betraying humanity? Lu Yin asked. How can you be sure that I won't tell the Hall of Honor? Because you're our master. The Spectre clan needs to be loyal, protected, and served our master for life. Our destruction won't affect you at all, but our existence can help you do things that are inconvenient for the Great Eastern Alliance. You'll know when you use us, Tiando said. Lu Yin did not believe that the Spectre clan would be loyal to him just because he had obtained the Death God's inheritance. He was more willing to believe that the Spectre clan had intentionally approached him in order to obtain the Death God's inheritance. He was the only one who had successfully cultivated the arcane art of life and death. Therefore the secret only existed in his body. If you're afraid of making things difficult for me, then why reveal yourself now? Lu Yin asked cautiously. Celestial Do smiled. Because our master needs us. What do you mean? Lu Yin raised an eyebrow. Death aura spread out from beneath Tiando's feet, and a star chart of the fifth mainland appeared in the void. My lord currently occupies the inner verse, and the cosmic seas Leon's armada is like a family to my lord. My lord will either reclaim the outer verse and chase away the sixth mainland, or enter the Neoverse and look at the Hall of Honor from afar. Regardless of which option it is, neither of these are things that the current Great Eastern Alliance can accomplish. Only we, the Spectre clan, can help you, master. With our broken bodies, we will protect your majesty's great ambitions. On the surface, the Shi family and the seven courts can be used at your majesty's will. Whether it's to reclaim the outerverse, enter the Neoverse, drive away the sixth mainland, start a war between the mainlands, assimilate the Hall of Honor, or even attack the Astral Beast domain or the Technocracy, the Spectre clan will obey your majesty's orders. As the head judge of Heaven Do's Tribunal of Darkness, he could easily subdue the second Night King. His bow to Lu Yin could be said to be very solemn. From what Lu Yin could see, Tiando's strength was about the same as Qing Ping's, and he could easily suppress the second Night King. Tiando's strength was terrifying, but Tiando was still bowing to Lu Yin. Either Tiando had truly joined the alliance, or Tiando's ambitions were so great that he was willing to give up his dignity. Regardless of the situation, Lu Yin did not dare to fall out with Tiando. Lu Yin hurriedly stepped forward and supported Tiando with both hands. Senior, please rise. Tiando stood up. I know that it won't be easy to gain your majesty's trust. After all, the only way for us to join the Neo-Human Alliance is through time. Please trust us, your majesty. No matter what, we will never betray your majesty because your majesty is the foundation of our survival. At that moment, the chains around the second Night King's body disappeared, and he stood behind Lu Yin, staring at Tiando warily. Tiando looked at him. The only reason you have your current cultivation is because of the accumulation of time. With your innate gift, you shouldn't have such strength. Still, it's enough to protect your majesty. The second Night King was enraged. He had lived longer than anyone else, and he felt aggrieved that he had been easily suppressed by two head judges. The Spectre clan lives here? Lu Yin asked as he looked into the depths of the palace. Tiando answered, yes. What about her? Is she from the Shi family? Lu Yin was asking about Xiahua. Tiando answered, the Shi family is still a member of the Shi family, but they are under the control of my Spectre clan. They are using their identities to conceal my Spectre clan's movements. Aren't you afraid that Xiaji will find out? Lu Yin was puzzled. Tiando smiled. The Shi family has many items that belong to my Spectre clan, including many bones. It's normal for death energy to appear occasionally. No one would have thought that the Shi family, which they should have defeated, would be controlled by my Spectre clan. After all, my Spectre clan only wanted to protect themselves, which led to us joining the Neo-Human Alliance. Lu Yin nodded. This was a misconception. Although Xiaji was powerful, he could not have seen through everything. Following that, Lu Yin followed Tiando into the palace. The palace was also just a cover, as the Spectre clan did not actually live here. Instead, they lived in a forest behind the palace. That forest was in a hidden space like a mysterious sect. Lu Yin was shocked when he saw the Spectre clan members living peacefully in the forest. He had thought that the Spectre clan's lives were oppressive and that they only knew how to cultivate. He had even thought that they were part of an assassin organization like Aegis, but he had not expected that the Spectre clan he saw would be completely different. There are only a few tens of thousands of Spectre clan members left, and most of them are their family members. The real Spectre clan members are either cultivating or hiding in the outside world. Master, although our numbers are small, we are not any weaker than any of the major powers, Tiandou explained. Lu Yin laughed. This was more like it. How could the Spectre clan live such a rural life? Cultivation was their foundation. What about the death energy? Lu Yin asked. Tiandou was helpless. We originally absorbed the death energy from the Eternal Kingdom, but now that the Eternal Kingdom has been destroyed and the parallel space has disappeared, we can only absorb death energy from Kuan's swamp for our clan members to cultivate. Lu Yin's heart skipped a beat. The Eternal Kingdom had not disappeared, but he did not say anything about it. The Spectre clan was not worthy of his trust, or rather they were not worthy of his trust right now. Only when he truly trusted the Spectre clan would he allow them to live in the Eternal Kingdom. Otherwise he would never reveal the secret of the Eternal Kingdom. Although the Shi clan was the Spectre clan's base, there were not many Spectre clan members who actually cultivated death energy. Tong Yu and Silver were not around, but Lu Yin saw one. It was Faceless, who had been ranked 72nd on the top 100 rankings and had fought with him at the Sea King's Dome. He had used the arcane art of life and death to suppress Faceless' death energy, causing Faceless to think that Lu Yin was one of the Spectre clan's upper echelons who would listen to his orders. At that time, Lu Yin had guessed that the arcane art of life and death had something to do with the Spectre clan. It was only now that he knew that the arcane art of life and death had been released by the Spectre clan, and it had come from the death god. Lu Yin followed Celestial Dou around the fields and saw where the Spectre clan members cultivated. He could sense quite a few powerful auras, and there were even 2 emissaries. Does the Neo-Human Alliance know about this place? Lu Yin asked. Celestial Dou replied, I do. Lu Yin was not surprised. With so many people hiding here, it would be strange if the Neo-Human Alliance did not know. Because this is the 7 courts and because of Xiaji's existence, the Neo-Human Alliance has never come here before. However, before the Eternal Kingdom was destroyed, Tong Yu, I, and most of the Spectre clan's upper echelons lived there. The Neo-Human Alliance trusted us very much, Celestial Dou replied. Why would they believe that the Spectre clan joined the Neo-Human Alliance? Lu Yin asked. Celestial Dou replied, they were the ones who found us. At that time we were truly at the end of our rope. The only reason we were able to control the Shi clan was because of the Neo-Human Alliance's help. Why were we defeated back then? Did the Shi clan surpass the Spectre clan in strength? Of course not. The ones who truly acted against us were the Hall of Honor. The Shi clan also joined forces with the 7 courts. Otherwise, how could we have lost? What a pity. Celestial Dou said, yes, what a pity. If we had been at our peak, we would have been able to provide much more help to you, Master. We would have even been able to fight the Hall of Honor head-on. Lu Yin did not plan on staying in the Bone Sea for long, and he did not ask Celestial Dou any questions that were too secretive. Just as Celestial Dou had said, Lu Yin could not bear to exterminate the Spectre clan. Back then he had dared to challenge the Day-Night clan as a melder, dancing on the edge of a blade. Now he was even more confident, and he was not afraid of losing to the Spectre clan. If you wish to leave, Master, your subordinate will not stay. Before you leave, would you like to take a look at the battle techniques that my Spectre clan has been researching regarding Death Chi for many years? Celestial Dou made a very tempting suggestion. Lu Yin agreed without any hesitation. Battle techniques were always tempting. After using the Death God transformation, Lu Yin's battle style had become more monotonous, and he did not have any battle techniques that were specifically compatible with Death Chi. He had only learned the Death Mask battle technique when he had absorbed Death Chi in the Eternal Kingdom, but it had only been a disguise and not a battle technique. He was also curious as to what battle techniques the Spectre clan had developed. Wherever Lu Yin went, the Second Night King would follow him. Celestial Dou was not afraid that the Second Night King would learn any battle techniques. Without Death Chi, these battle techniques would be useless and meaningless. The Spectre clan's battle techniques were recorded in many books, and there was no need to protect them. Everything was based on Death Chi, and with Death Chi one would be a member of the Spectre clan. Without Death Chi, learning them would be pointless. Lu Yin flipped through the books and saw battle techniques one after another. Some of these battle techniques were indeed exquisite, but unfortunately they were not very useful in battle. This was especially true after he used the Death God transformation. With a shield in his left hand, a scythe in his right and chains around his body, these battle techniques were completely useless. Perhaps these battle techniques would be useful to ordinary members of the Spectre clan, but they were useless to him. The Spectre clan did not have many battle techniques, only a dozen or so. Chapter 1949. Lu Yin put down the book and shook his head. It's a pity that these battle techniques are useless against me. Celestial Dou replied, to Master, these battle techniques are indeed flashy. This subordinate has a battle technique that I'm not sure if Master would like to learn about. Lu Yin's eyes lit up. Let's see. This was Celestial Dou, and from what Lu Yin knew, he should be on the same level as Qing Ping. His battle techniques were enough to drive countless people crazy. The second Night King looked at Celestial Dou with anticipation. Death energy emanated from Celestial Dou's body before wrapping around his entire body, forming a cocoon-like object. Lu Yin's eyes widened. It was similar to his death transformation. Could Celestial Dou be able to use it as well? The cocoon dissipated and Celestial Dou smiled. How was it, Master? Lu Yin blinked. What do you mean? Celestial Dou replied, a battle technique. It's called Death Guard. Are you interested, Master? Lu Yin was speechless. Aren't you just wrapping yourself up? Celestial Dou smiled and looked at the second Night King. The second Night King's expression turned serious. I can't break through that defense. Lu Yin was shocked. You can't break through it? Although the second Night King had been easily suppressed by Celestial Dou, that did not mean that he was useless. Celestial Dou was just too strong. With his golden eyes and death energy and Qing Ping's innate gift, the second Night King had been able to retaliate, and his attacks had not been weak. However, it was impossible for the second Night King to not be able to break through that cocoon. The second Night King solemnly said, although I don't understand death energy, there should have been some strange changes within the cocoon that formed a nearly unbreakable defense. Aside from a half-ancestor, I can't think of anyone who can break through it. That's my feeling. Lu Yin was shocked. Was it that powerful? Celestial Dou raised a hand and condensed a drop of water that slowly fell to the ground. It split apart, revealing that it was just an ordinary drop of water. He then condensed another drop of water and it slowly fell to the ground like before. However, this time it pierced through the ground and even tore through the void. Lu Yin continued to stare at the droplet of water. He could clearly see that it was still the same droplet of water, but its insides had changed. It was no exaggeration to say that this droplet of water could kill an emissary. My lord, you are very familiar with star energy. There are countless battle techniques in the universe that can utilize the power of star energy and change its form. However, at the end of the day, star energy is a form of cultivation and so is death energy. Have you ever thought of changing the form of death energy? Celestial Dou asked slowly. His words enlightened Lu Yin and opened up another line of thought. Lu Yin's usage of death qi had always been crude, and it could even be said that he did not have much use for it. It was the same even after the Reaper transformation. However, death qi was also a type of cultivation power, and it could also be used to manifest various battle techniques. Celestial Dou's death qi protection was one of them, and the death face that Lu Yin had seen when absorbing death qi was another. Under the premise that the entire universe cultivated star energy, the death aura battle technique had its own unique advantages. In that case, would it be possible to form the death aura into the form of a battle technique that he would often use? For example, the Sirius Palm, the 13 Swords, or the 9 Suns Cauldron transformation. Suddenly, Lu Yin recalled the scene when he had absorbed death qi in the Mysterium sect. That person who seemed to be the Grim Reaper had condensed death qi into a ball and replaced the heavenly dome to suppress the astral beasts. Wasn't that similar to the 9 Suns Cauldron transformation? I understand, Lu Yin said excitedly. It wasn't impossible to try it. Celestial Dou smiled. Then are you interested in death qi protection? Lu Yin looked at him. Of course. Not long after, Celestial Dou taught Lu Yin how to use death qi protection and how to transform it internally. It wasn't difficult, but it was difficult to control. If one wanted to use death qi protection as easily as Celestial Dou, they would need to have an extremely high level of control over death qi, just like how they controlled star energy. Lu Yin was confident that he would be able to do it quickly. After all, he had already reached the profound creation realm and had experience in controlling star energy. Master, I've also prepared a small gift for you. I hope you'll like it. After Celestial Dou finished teaching him the battle technique, he raised a hand and a bone appeared in the void. There was nothing special about it, but it contained a black death chi that was similar to what Zhou Xian had used when she had used the slither bone strengthening technique. The Shi family has fought with us for many years, so they understand us the best. Not only have they come up with various methods to resist the death chi, but there are also people who want to use it to deal with us. I have to say that the Shi family has produced geniuses. Someone used the slither bone strengthening technique to forcefully contain the death chi and gain an advantage against us. This bone is made from the Shi family's slither bone strengthening technique, and it contains a large amount of death chi. Master, you can place it in your cosmic ring to prevent the death chi from running out. Lu Yin's eyes lit up. Then I won't stand on ceremony. He looked at the bone in his hand. The Shi family really did have some skills. Celestial Dou then took out a 2-meter-tall object. An egg? Lu Yin blinked and looked at the white oval in front of him. No matter how he looked at it, it looked like an egg. The second Night King was also astonished. Celestial Dou solemnly said, Master, this is an egg. I can see that, Lu Yin said. Celestial Dou explained, this is a dead egg that comes from a creature called the clam. That creature looks like an insect, but it's incomparably large and ancient, and it has brought about disasters in the past. The clam's defense is invincible, and it's rumored that only progenitors can deal with it. The eggs it lays are difficult for even someone with a power level of 1,000,000 to break through. Lu Yin was shocked. Only progenitors could deal with this insect? He couldn't help but touch the egg and exert some force, but it didn't budge at all. This egg has existed for many years and there's no longer any life inside. It was modified by our Spectre clan, and there's nothing but an outer shell left. It's like a personal spacecraft, and if Master encounters any danger, you can hide inside. Generally speaking, even the second Night King wouldn't be able to break through it easily, Celestial Dou explained. Lu Yin put it away. It was a good item, but he lacked defensive items. After putting it away, Lu Yin looked at Celestial Dou with a hopeful gaze. If there was a defensive item, then there should be an offensive item as well. Celestial Dou did not disappoint, and with a wave of his hand, a needle appeared in the void. It wasn't accurate to call it a needle as it was too long. It was at least 1 meter long, but its appearance was that of a needle and it was very thin. When the needle appeared, Lu Yin felt an inexplicable chill, and he could faintly smell the stench of blood. The entire space felt like a balloon that could be pierced by the needle at any moment. Lu Yin was shocked and he raised his hand to touch the needle. It was cold to the touch. This is a needle and it's not a power vessel. However, it has once killed a half-ancestor, Celestial Dou said solemnly. Lu Yin and the second Night King Lu Yin was shocked. Killed a half-ancestor? In an era where progenitors did not appear, half-ancestors were synonymous with invincibility. Aside from senior brother Qing Ping, Lu Yin had never heard of anyone who could challenge a half-ancestor. This was just a needle and it wasn't even a power vessel, but it had actually killed a half-ancestor before. Master, don't underestimate this needle. That's because the material used to make it has long since gone extinct. It's the toughest metal and it was very difficult to find even during the Daoist sect's era. I don't know who actually used that material to make this needle, but even my Spectre clan can't melt it down and use it again, Celestial Dou said. Lu Yin held the needle. The Spectre clan couldn't melt it down, but he could. His Daoist possession was specialized in dealing with metal materials. However, since this needle had killed a half-ancestor before, it would be a pity to melt it down. Could it be upgraded? Lu Yin's eyes brightened. Celestial Dou had given him 3 external items, and Lu Yin was satisfied with all of them. Lu Yin felt that this trip had not been in vain, and he prepared to bid farewell to Celestial Dou. No matter what the Spectre clan's attitude towards him was, whether they were sincere or not, at least they would not harm him for now. Once he confirmed that he was no longer threatened by Celestial Dou, he would be able to propose some conditions to the Spectre clan, such as resources. I heard that Master needs resources and my Spectre clan has some as well. How much do you need? Celestial Dou said just a second before Lu Yin was about to leave. Lu Yin immediately stopped talking. How much do you have? Celestial Dou smiled. The Spectre clan doesn't need star essence for cultivation, but many materials and external items require star essence. Thus we can't give Master too much at the moment. Lu Yin understood. How about we give Master 50 billion star essence for now? Celestial Dou asked. Lu Yin's face twitched. 50 billion? Does Master think that's too little? Your subordinate will think of a way to obtain more star essence as soon as possible and give it to Master as soon as possible. Please rest assured, Master, Celestial Dou hurriedly said, thinking that Lu Yin thought that it was too little. Of course, Lu Yin did not think that it was too little. He had never expected that a hidden Spectre clan would be able to take out 50 billion star essence. It was not 500 million but 100 times more than the Blaze realm. Where had they gotten so much money? Could it be from the Shi family? It was not impossible. Alright, 50 billion it is. Although it's not much, it should be enough for now, Lu Yin said calmly. Celestial Dou relaxed. That's good. Rest assured, Master. My Spectre clan will gather everything you need as soon as possible, whether it's resources or battle techniques. Lu Yin's heart skipped a beat. Do you have Fateson? Celestial Dou shook his head. We haven't collected that. Do you need it, Master? I'll immediately give the order to collect it. Whatever. Lu Yin's mind was immersed in the 50 billion star essence, and he suppressed his excitement. With this 50 billion, his total assets would reach 60 billion, and he would be able to make up for his previous expenses by doubling them. The stronger one was, the faster one could earn money. This was the hard truth. Sierra Hua and the other two were waiting at the entrance of the palace. Lu Yin was about to leave when he suddenly stopped and turned back to look at Celestial Dou. Aside from here, is there no other place for the Spectre clan to gather? He had not intended to ask a question that was too secretive, as he was worried that Celestial Dou would attack him if he revealed any flaws. But after thinking about it, this question was not too secretive. Even if Celestial Dou was lying, Lu Yin would not be able to tell. After all, he did not know much about the Spectre clan. Celestial Dou smiled. Master, you're much more at ease with me now. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. You don't have to answer this question. Celestial Dou raised a hand and a rather simple stone appeared in his palm. Do you recognize this, Master? Lu Yin looked at the stone and felt that it looked familiar, but where had he seen it before? He could not recall where, but he was sure that he had seen it before. Chapter 1950. A World Creation Stone, the second Night King said. Lu Yin had a flash of inspiration. A world creation stone used to create a world? Celestial Dou replied, that's right, but to be precise, it's not creating a world. It's just providing coordinates. The creation of a world requires hundreds of millions of materials, and it also requires a complete ecosystem. A world creation stone is used to locate the coordinates of the void. My Spectre clan owns one of the 3,000 great worlds. Lu Yin didn't know much about the 3,000 great worlds, both because he didn't have the time and because they didn't leave the glory realm, which meant that they didn't have much influence on the outside world. Master, in ancient times the universe was filled with parallel spaces, and most of these parallel spaces were great worlds. For example, some ancient sects were hidden in the void. The eternal kingdom that you visited before was also considered a great world. Celestial Dou continued, the Hall of Honor controls the fifth mainland, and in order to make it easier to manage, they drove all the known great worlds into the glory realm. If they didn't comply, they would be destroyed. In fact, after the Daoist sect's decisive battle with the sixth mainland, there were far more than just 3,000 great worlds. Today the 3,000 great worlds above the Realm Mountain are not allowed to leave. The Hall of Honor is responsible for creating, selling and supervising the great worlds. There's a place called the World Alliance that the Hall of Honor sends people to oversee, and the 3,000 great worlds can do so on their own. It's a department of the Hall of Honor that deals with the 3,000 great worlds, and its responsibilities are similar to the interstellar tribunals. It's also known as the Hall of Honor's money bag. Lu Yin was astonished, as this was the first time he had heard of this department. He had been to the Realm Mountain many times, so why hadn't he heard of it before? He suddenly recalled something and activated his gadget. He opened the director's list and found an introduction to the World Alliance. He hadn't paid much attention to it before, but it turned out that there was such a department. It seems that Master doesn't know much about it, but it doesn't matter. The World Alliance can't affect the fifth mainland situation, and there are less than 10 envoys in the 3,000 great worlds. It has little influence on the Hall of Honor, so there's no need for Master to be overly concerned. Lu Yin sighed and curiously asked, "The Hall of Honor's money bag?" Tiando wasn't surprised that Lu Yin had focused on this topic. That's right. Selling large worlds is a specialty of the Neoverse, and it's also one of the most profitable businesses. Even the most ordinary and smallest of worlds are worth hundreds of millions of star essence. Larger worlds with better environments can be sold for hundreds of millions of star essence or even billions. Who are those people who bought the great worlds? Where did you get so much money? Celestial Dou smiled as he explained, most of the people who buy great worlds are sects or organizations and almost no one would buy them. For example, my Spectre clan bought a great world for 700 million star essence, but it didn't attract much attention. There are actually many organizations in the Innerverse flow zones who can buy them, and if they're willing they can sell all of the resources and territories on the surface. It's not like they can't afford it. Take the Blaze Realm for example. Although he had only obtained 500 million star essence from the Blaze Realm, that was only in terms of star essence. The entire Blaze Realm's stockpiled resources definitely far exceeded that amount, and this was not even taking into account the 1/3 of the Blazing Mist flow zone that the Blaze Realm controlled. If a large power was willing to take over the Blazing Mist flow zone, then they could sell it for an extremely high price. This would allow them to obtain an enormous amount of star essence, and it would not be impossible for them to purchase an entire greater world. Apart from that, the Mavis Bank can also lend them a loan to purchase a large world, Heaven Dou added. Lu Yin looked at his hand. The World Creation Stone. If I give you the materials, can you create a great world? Celestial Dou replied, of course, but the Hall of Honor forbids the creation of great worlds outside of Mount Glory. If Master is discovered, then his crime will be the same as colluding with the Neo-Human Alliance. After all, great worlds are too difficult to manage and some are like specks of dust. If they hide, the Hall of Honor will never be able to find them, and they won't be willing to spend the effort to find them. If the Neo-Human Alliance has hidden great worlds in the Innerverse and Outerverse, then we won't be able to find them, right? Lu Yin asked. Celestial Dou replied, very few. The Neo-Human Alliance is very aggressive, and those who buy great worlds to live in are basically organizations that have given up on making progress and only want to protect themselves. The Neo-Human Alliance needs corpse kings, and they need to cause trouble for the human domain. They need to fight, and a great world is not suitable for them. They can hide for a while, but they will eventually appear. There are indeed great worlds hidden by the Neo-Human Alliance in the Innerverse and Outerverse, including the Cosmic Sea. Even if the Hall of Honor discovered them, they did not take action. During the war between Master's Great Eastern Alliance and the Astral Beast Domain, the Hall of Honor closed the net and destroyed more than 10 great worlds. The Eternal Kingdom was one of them, which is why the Hall of Honor was unable to find it even after so many years. Lu Yin nodded. That was right. The Eternal Kingdom's seal was equivalent to a world creation stone, and it could be considered one of the great worlds. However, it could not be moved. Senior Celestial Dou, if there comes a day when I, Lu Yin, become the public enemy of humanity, will you help me? Before leaving, Lu Yin asked one last question as he looked at Celestial Dou. The second Night King glanced at Lu Yin. Public enemy of humanity? Celestial Dou and Lu Yin looked at each other for a moment and then he smiled. That's the master of my Spectre clan. Lu Yin raised his brows, smiled and shook his head. That was right. The Spectre clan had joined the Neo-Human Alliance, so they were already the public enemy of humanity. Wouldn't it be perfect for him to become the public enemy? Let's change the question. Lu Yin grinned at Celestial Dou. If there comes a day when I'm faced with certain death, will you help my mother? Celestial Dou's expression was solemn. The death chi will be exhausted one day, and that day will be the end of my Spectre clan. Rather than waiting for that day to come, why not fight it out with my master? He then bowed deeply once more. I look forward to my master becoming the death god and replacing the astral source with death chi. You will change the sky and the universe. Lu Yin left and the palace doors slammed shut. A cool breeze blew through his hair as Xia Hua and the other two waited respectfully in front of him. Their attitude was completely different from when they had brought Lu Yin here. Lu Yin looked at the three with a strange expression. It's been hard on you. You must be tired. Xia Hua respectfully replied, It is my Shi clan's honor to be able to serve my master. Lu Yin shook his head, feeling sad for them. The Shi clan and the Spectre clan had been mortal enemies, but in the end, they had become vassals of the Spectre clan. Their descendants had been enslaved for generations to come and become the Spectre clan's gatekeepers. It was truly sad. Who would have thought that the dignified Shi clan, one of the 7 courts, would end up in such a miserable state? Sierra Hua sent Lu Yin into outer space, and Lu Yin's trip to the 7 courts finally came to an end. He looked in the direction of the technocracy and his gaze seemed to pierce through space. He saw the Genesis Academy and the new sky corridor, and he seemed to see countless pairs of eyes filled with killing intent and enmity. He had to build up a force to contend with them as quickly as possible. This battle was unavoidable. Beep 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 beep. His gadget beeped. It was Wang Wen. Before arriving at the Shi clan, Lu Yin had already told Wang Wen about the situation and asked him to think of a solution. Coincidentally, the moment he left the Shi clan, Wang Wen contacted him. Lu Yin accepted the call expectantly. Are you sure about what you said before? Wang Wen's voice was unprecedentedly serious. Lu Yin was in no hurry to leave and he did not avoid the second Night King either. He simply stood in outer space and said, absolutely. How long? Maybe half a year at most. Maybe. Lu Yin's gaze turned cold. Half a year. Wang Wen was silent for a moment. When we first returned from that region of space, we already said that they would be our enemy and that we would fight them sooner or later. However, we never expected that day to come so soon. Is there any way? Lu Yin asked. Wang Wen was helpless. I'm not a god. I have to face at least 4 half-progenitors, dozens of envoys and the pressure from that region of space. There might even be progenitors. This isn't something that the astral beast domain can compare to. I know, and that's why we're discussing it. It's not like there's no way. Even in a desperate situation there's still hope. It just depends on what we do, Wang Wen said. Lu Yin listened quietly. There's only one way to resist the invasion of 4 half-progenitors. Either we mobilize a progenitor or the entire 5th mainland attacks together. The 5th mainland has 6 half-progenitors and you have one behind you as well. 7 half-progenitors should be enough, so what we need to do now is to think of a way to convince the entire 5th mainland to ally with you. If we die together, Wang Wen said. Of course, I've thought about that before. What I want you to think about is how to ally with the 5th mainland. Elder Chan's attitude towards me is very good, but that doesn't mean that he supports this war. He said a long time ago that the humans can't have internal strife, and Everlasting Island might not be willing to fight a half-progenitor for me. I have some leverage over the Sirius sect, but if the sect is in danger of being destroyed, they'll definitely be the first to abandon me. Wang Wen replied, we can't be that naive. Let me think about it again. As long as we can form a community that benefits the 5th mainland, it'll be fine. If you die, the entire 5th mainland will be in trouble. Let's see who won't protect you. Lu Yin put down his hand with a heavy heart. He had already expected this day to come when he had escaped from the cosmic trees to the 5th mainland, so he had not dared to slack off for even a moment. He had continuously expanded the Great Eastern Alliance's strength and even declared war on the Astral Beast domain. Currently, the Great Eastern Alliance was strong enough, but the threat of the cosmic trees was still as heavy as a mountain. The cosmic trees' potential for war was too great. Even with the back-end battlefield holding them back, they could still gather 4 half-progenitors and send them to the 5th mainland. Compared to the cosmic trees, this place was truly a wasteland. He had half a year left and he did not know how to form a community of benefits, especially since Elder Chan and the other half-progenitors knew his identity. They would be able to tell what he was doing and none of them were stupid. Lu Yin was not naive enough to believe that the 5th mainland would definitely protect him. He would rather believe in the Neo-Human Alliance's schemes and the Spectre clan's hopes for him. Sometimes people did not want to fall, but rather they had no choice. If he was truly forced into a dead end and the cosmic trees chased after him, the 5th mainland would give up and the Great Eastern Alliance would collapse, then what would he do? He wanted revenge, he wanted to bring the Lu family back, he wanted to destroy the Eternals, and he wanted to protect the people he cared about. There were too many things that he wanted to do and he could not die. Chapter 1951. When he looked back at the 7 courts, the Summer Blade mainland's sharpness was unparalleled. When Progenitor Qin had been invincible, he had beaten the 6th mainland into silence. Wanxiang Mountain was full of wisdom and vitality, and Progenitor Hui had been calculating for years. He was an enemy that had not been spared even after billions of years had passed. The Spirit Void continent had been struck by lightning, and progenitor Ku had been unknown, but he had killed his way into the Eternals alone and never returned. Who would remember him? He needed praise and he only wanted a clear conscience. He only wanted to fight to the death. Even a progenitor could die in battle, let alone Lu Yin. Enemies, clansmen, give up, struggle. Lu Yin thought of too many things in an instant. In the end he let out a long howl that reverberated through the heavens. He was a direct descendant of the Lu family and he was a human. He had silently embarked on the path of cultivation from Earth and had become the leader of the Great Eastern Alliance. His life was not something that could be taken by anyone. He would not place his life in the hands of others, nor would he count on others to be kind. Only by taking the initiative would he have a chance at survival. The Xia family had been wary of the Seven Courts, and the Hui family had expressed goodwill. The Ku family, Si family, and even the Yuanxi families had placed their hopes on him. If the Seven Courts were treated like the Fifth Mainland, then he might be able to join forces against the astral trees. But what if he expanded the scope? Lu Yin remained in place for 2 full days. During these 2 days, no one disturbed him and he did not contact anyone. He simply stood there and looked at the Seven Courts. 2 days later, Lu Yin regained his senses and let out a long breath. He opened his gadget. Wangwen, let's play a game of the entire universe. In the distance, a spacecraft was heading towards Lu Yin. It was from the Xia family. A youth had his hands clasped behind his back as he looked into space. He watched as the Seven Courts grew smaller and smaller, and he raised a hand as if he wanted to grab the entire place. "Young master, you shouldn't have done that," an aged voice sounded from behind him. It was an elder with a serious expression and a slightly hunched back. The youth lowered his hand and smiled apologetically. "I'm sorry, Uncle Jiang. I forgot myself for a moment, but I won't do it again." Uncle Jiang solemnly said, "We've only taken the first step. Even though our status is high, we're still just puppets. Young master, you still have a long way to go." The youth nodded. "I know." His name was Xianxia, a disciple of the Xia clan. On this day he went to Jie Mountain to replace Nan Yuan as the new director. There would always be a seat reserved for the Seven Courts, and this seat would always belong to the Xia family. Even if the Xia family did not have a suitable candidate, they would still recommend someone. Xiaxing was the candidate recommended by the Xia family. The one who suggested this was Xiameng. Someone reported, "Young master, there's someone up ahead." Uncle Jiang frowned. "Avoid? Do we need to report something like this?" That person wiped the sweat off his forehead and respectfully said, "That person seems to be Lu Yin." Uncle Jiang's expression changed. "The Great Eastern Alliance's Alliance Master, Director Lu Yin?" That person nodded. Xiaxing's expression was solemn as he recalled everything that had happened to Lu Yin. Everything that Lu Yin had done had left him in the dust, and everything that Lu Yin had done was something that he yearned to achieve. Uncle Jiang looked at Xiaxing. "Young master, your chance has come." Xiaxing was puzzled. Uncle Jiang said, "Lu Yin is not on good terms with the family head, but he has close ties with the other families of the Seven Courts. I received news that he left the Shi family 2 days ago, and he has stayed in every family. The Hui family's elder Hui Kong is especially close to him. As long as you have Lu Yin's support, you can take the second step." Xiaxing took a deep breath and straightened his clothes. "Then let's meet this legendary sovereign." As the spacecraft drew closer to Lu Yin, Xiaxing grew increasingly nervous. He had great ambitions, but he did not have the strength to match them. Lu Yin was the same as him. The only difference was that Lu Yin had the strength to match his ambitions. As he watched Lu Yin's figure grow clearer and clearer, Xiaxing's breathing quickened, and the light of ambition in his eyes grew brighter. There would be a day when he would reach Lu Yin's level, and he would definitely be able to do so. At that time he would return all the unfairness and oppression that the Xia family had imposed on him. This person in front of him was the most important step. "Young master, let's go," Uncle Jiang said softly. Xiaxing nodded, and just as he was about to exit the spacecraft to greet Lu Yin suddenly disappeared. Xiaxing stared blankly at the empty space. Where did he go? Regardless of how complicated Xiaxing and the others' emotions were as they prepared to greet Lu Yin did not notice them at all. He had received a message from Little Leo and was heading directly to the Aurora stronghold in the north. Back in Eben City, Lu Yin had disguised himself and entered the stronghold, forming a friendship with Little Leo. Even though his identity had been exposed, he had still cooperated with Eben City, almost forming an alliance with Little Leo. Just now, Little Leo had contacted Lu Yin and told him that he had accidentally developed a new type of universal armor. This new universal armor not only had the ability to protect the wearer while traveling through outer space, but it also had the ability to accelerate the wearer's movements. Even a Lemeter would be able to move much faster if they wore it. If a normal person wore it, the increased speed would be so fast that they would not be able to adapt to the changes in their environment. Without the protection of the universal armor, the sudden acceleration could crush a normal person to pieces. Lu Yin was led by the second Night King towards the north, looking at the designs of the universal armor along the way. Not only could this armor increase the wearer's speed, but it also had a way for the wearer to release attacks. It was completely different from the previous universal armor. Little Leo was an expert in the field of modified humans, and as the most creative and genius inventor in Eben City, the things that he had accidentally developed were all very valuable. When Lu Yin saw this new universal armor, his first thought was to incorporate the smoke from the Smokescreen mountain range and combine it with microarray technology. If it could be done, then a Lemeter would be able to solo an explorer. No, if the microarray technology was successful, then the destructive power it could unleash would not just be at the level of an explorer. The more Lu Yin thought about it, the more excited he became, and he could not help but urge the second Night King to speed up. The Aurora Stronghold had an important part of Lu Yin's plan, which was the microarray technology that they had secretly developed. Lu Yin had started this plan not long after he had returned to the fifth mainland from the Astral Tree domain, and he felt that it was time to see the results. Lu Yin's arrival had been unannounced. Chairman Ji was shocked when he heard that Lu Yin had arrived, and he hurriedly led the upper echelons of the Aurora Company out to welcome him. With Lu Yin's current status, he was treated this way no matter where he went. Chairman Ji chuckled when he saw Lu Yin. "Alliance leader Lu, why didn't you inform us beforehand? I would have been prepared. We didn't know until you appeared outside the Aurora Stronghold. That was too negligent." Lu Yin smiled. "Chairman Ji, you're too polite. I just happened to pass by and wanted to rest inside." "Ah, don't talk about resting. Even a year isn't a problem. Alliance leader Lu, please." Following Chairman Ji, Lu Yin entered the Aurora Stronghold once more. Last time, Lu Yin had brought Flying Willow with him, but this time he had brought the second Night King with him. The second Night King's appearance greatly increased the pressure on the Aurora Stronghold, and such a powerhouse would feel oppressed wherever he went. Chairman Ji glanced at the second Night King several times, but Lu Yin did not introduce him, so he did not ask. "There's a powerhouse with a power level of 1,000,000, the second Night King transmitted to Lu Yin. Lu Yin glanced in the second Night King's direction. The first time he had come here, Mr. Lu Yi had said that this place made him feel a sense of danger. It should be that powerhouse with a power level of 1,000,000. To be able to take root in the Neoverse and run the universe's largest spacecraft company, Lu Yin was not surprised that the Aurora Corporation had a powerhouse with a power level of 1,000,000. In the past he would have been amazed, but now, unless there was a half-ancestor overseeing the place, no one could pressure him. As long as the second Night King wanted to, he could easily flatten the Aurora Stronghold. Among the powerhouses below the half-ancestor level in the fifth mainland, the second Night King could be ranked in the top 10, and he had absolute control. This time, Chairman Ji was accompanied by Master Ji to welcome Lu Yin. This young master of the Aurora Corporation had also participated in the Star Tower contest, but unfortunately he had been nothing more than a minor character who did not have much of a presence. It had been the same in the Sovereign Tournament as well, and seeing him reminded Lu Yin of racing. There were many engineers in the Aurora Stronghold, and Chairman Ji introduced Biaozi, the chief engineer of the Aurora Stronghold. He was a sturdy old man who was 3 meters tall. His name was also very strange and did not match his status at all, but it did match his figure. Wan Gong did not appear. "Alliance Master Lu, your micro-battle armor was created by me." This burly 3-meter-tall chief consultant grinned, revealing a mouthful of black teeth as he spoke in a cheerful manner. Lu Yin was astonished. "You're the little giant?" Biaozi nodded, but most of his 1-meter-long beard had been charred. "That's right." Lu Yin smiled. "I never thought that the fifth mainland would have little giants as well. What's your relationship with the sixth mainland's little giants?" Biaozi was curious. "The sixth mainland has little giants as well?" "Yes, the Arrow sect," Lu Yin replied. Biaozi shook his head. I don't know, but it should be different. Lu Yin did not pursue the matter. The sixth mainland not only had little giants but also big giants, which was very normal. Chairman Ji, aside from passing by, there's another reason for my visit. Do you still remember our agreement? Lu Yin looked at Chairman Ji. Chairman Ji's eyes lit up. It's a collaboration, right? Alliance leader Lu will provide the rare materials, and the Aurora Corporation will build the standard spacecraft? Lu Yin smiled. Change it a bit. Aside from the standard spacecraft, I also need to build this. He then took out little Leo's blueprint and passed it to Chairman Ji. Chairman Ji took it and looked at the blueprint. His eyes went wide. This is... Biaozi was much taller than Chairman Ji and he was standing behind Chairman Ji. He also saw the blueprint and snatched it over. A new universal armor? Interesting, it actually incorporates acceleration equipment, and it doesn't put too much of a burden on the armor either. The core parts can be made with 10,000 crystal points, but it's best to make them with 20,000 crystal points to prevent damage in battle. The entire armor can be made with 7,000 crystal points. I never thought that there would be people who would research such a thankless thing. They really have nothing better to do. Chairman Ji looked at Lu Yin apologetically. My apologies, Alliance Leader Lu. Elder Biaozi is obsessed with manufacturing and he fell for the new blueprint when he saw it. Please don't mind him. Chapter 1952. Lu Yin smiled. Of course not. I'd like to ask Aurora Cosmos to help me mass-produce this universal armor. The price is negotiable, so feel free to name it. Before Zhidong could reply, Biaozi tossed the blueprint to him. It's already bad enough that someone is researching universal armor, but Alliance head Lu wants to mass-produce it? Don't you know that there's no point in producing something like this? Universal armor is just for ordinary people to wear while mining on planets. It's unrealistic to expect it to be used in battle. Even a Lemeter wearing universal armor can't defeat an explorer. Even if that Lemeter is a genius and can challenge those of a higher realm, how many of them are there? It's meaningless. A normal set of universal armor only costs 10 star crystals, but your set costs tens of thousands of star crystals. That's not a normal amount of money. Lu Yin asked, if I say that I need better materials and incorporate some other components, how much can it cost? Biaozi did some calculations and rolled his eyes. That depends on what you incorporate. Let's just say it's 10 times more expensive. That means that the cost of a set of universal armor is 1 star essence, right? Lu Yin asked. Zhidong was curious. Alliance head Lu, are you really going to make it? Lu Yin nodded. It's very difficult for cultivators below the explorer realm to play a role in a high-end battlefield. If I can rely on this universal armor to raise a Lemeter's strength to the level of an explorer, then it's worth the price. Impossible, Biaozi retorted. A Lemeter challenging an explorer? Unless that cultivator is a genius, then even if the universal armor can increase their overall speed, they won't be able to adapt to that speed. Escaping will be a problem, let alone fighting. Elder Biao, Zhidong growled unhappily. It was fine if Biaozi refuted Lu Yin's words once or twice, but if it happened too many times, Zhidong would be dissatisfied. Lu Yin did not mind as the chief consultant was right. Under normal circumstances, even a Lemeter wearing the new universal armor would not be able to challenge an explorer. However, if the smoke from the smokescreen mountain range and the fusion microarray technology were added, then things would be different. Half of a battle depended on the cultivator's own strength, while the other half depended on equipment. This was equivalent to using equipment to raise a normal cultivator into a genius who could challenge an explorer. Lu Yin himself was such a genius, so he had his own standards. Not long after, Lu Yin shared his thoughts with Chairman Ji and the other higher-ups of Aurora Cosmos, asking them to think of a way to integrate the smoke into the smoke-gulping mountain range. Zhidong sighed. Alliance leader Lu was actually able to obtain a large amount of that peculiar smoke from the smoke-gulping mountain range. Smoke-ingesting mountain range had always been selling that type of smoke to the outside world. It could indeed save one's life during critical moments, but it was sold in very small quantities. Lu Yin was able to obtain it in bulk, which made Zhidong sigh in admiration at his influence. Lu Yin took out 10 million star essence and handed it over to Chairman Ji. This is the down payment. I hope that your company can develop the new universal armor as soon as possible. I want to mass produce it and there's no limit to how much it can produce. Chairman Ji took the money. Don't worry, Alliance Master Lu. The Aurora Stronghold will accept this deal. The Aurora Corporation was a commercial organization, and as long as there was money to be made, they would accept whatever research he did, even if it was lunchboxes. It wasn't that Lu Yin hadn't thought of letting Banjiu research it, but compared to the Aurora Corporation, Banjiu paled in comparison. No matter what, he was just an outerverse cultivator, and no one knew what kind of talents the Aurora Corporation had. Especially since many of their technologies came from ancient times. Most importantly, he had no time to waste. Wan Gong turned on the light and lay down on his bed, exhausted. He was in a sealed room with no windows, so he couldn't see the outside world. His gadget couldn't receive any information from the outside world either. He was isolated from the outside world, and there were many others like him. They were all in the Aurora Corporation's core microarray technology department. A soft voice sounded from outside the door. Come in. Two women entered. One of them was extremely beautiful and young, and she had a bashful smile on her face. The other was the complete opposite. She wore revealing clothes, had a sexy figure, and had a seductive gaze. Wan Gong swallowed his saliva. Here he could enjoy everything that he had never been able to before. As long as he asked, the Aurora Corporation would agree, and the only condition was that he couldn't interact with the outside world. 2 hours later, the two women left. Wan Gong was even more exhausted now, but he was still in high spirits. Someone else entered, bringing all sorts of delicacies. Wan Gong was indeed hungry, and he started eating. You've been doing well, a calm voice said from behind him. Wan Gong's expression changed, and he turned around to see a familiar face. The meat in his mouth fell out, and he hurriedly stood up. Lu, Alliance Leader Lu? Lu Yin looked at the delicacies behind Wan Gong. These are all rare ingredients. Do you know that this meal is equivalent to an explorer's annual income? Wan Gong hurriedly wiped his mouth and bitterly said, Alliance Leader Lu, I'd rather not enjoy this. Ever since I returned to the microarray department, I've been isolated from the outside world. Previously, I could still occasionally contact the outside world and send messages to the directors, but with the breakthrough in technology, I can't contact them anymore. I've had enough of these days, and I haven't seen my son in a long time. Alliance Leader Lu, can you help me out and let me out? Lu Yin looked at him. How's the microarray research going? Wan Gong replied, It's been successful. Lu Yin's eyes went wide. You've succeeded? Wan Gong nodded. The technology has been successful, but there are no materials that can withstand it. No matter how hard a metal is, it can't stabilize the energy form. If the metal isn't hard enough, it will shatter, and if it's too hard, it will hinder the energy's eruption. It's very difficult to find a material that can withstand the energy's eruption without hindering it. Alliance Master Lu, can I have a look at the template you showed me back then? Lu Yin took out the sky-splitting array. Wan Gong hurriedly took it and carefully touched it. After a long time he shook his head. I can't find this material, and I've never seen it before. Actually, after the technology was solved, the entire Aurora Corporation searched for this material. My daily job is to experiment with various materials, but I still haven't found anything suitable. Try this. Lu Yin took out a piece of tree bark and tossed it to Wan Gong. It was the bark of the mother tree. Wan Gong's eyes lit up. This material is... He touched the sky-splitting array and looked at Lu Yin in pleasant surprise. It's very similar. Try it, Lu Yin said. Wan Gong hurriedly ran off to test it. As long as he didn't leave, Wan Gong was the leader of the microarray department, and no one could interfere with him. With the second Night King's help, even a powerhouse with a power level of 1,000,000 wouldn't be able to detect Lu Yin's movements. Half a day later, Wan Gong carefully picked up a microarray that used tree bark as the core material. Alliance Leader, what battle technique are you trying to compress? Lu Yin asked. What kind of battle technique can it contain? Since it's just research, the Jiuan Array Master is very powerful. The source box array he set up is only strong enough to contain an explorer's power. The Jiuan Array Master should be the powerhouse with a power level of 1,000,000 hidden within the Aurora Fort. Lu Yin didn't care about someone with a power level of 1,000,000 since the second Night King could easily suppress them. However, the Jiuan Array Master's identity was different. It would be difficult for others to find out what this person had set up in the Aurora Fort. Lu Yin had almost forgotten that the Jiuan Array Master was still here. Lu Yin raised a hand and casually waved his hand. The first sword of the 13 swords swept past the microarray and disappeared. Wan Gong took a deep breath and released the sword in front of him. A ray of sword chi swept through the void. We did it, we did it. Wan Gong was so excited that he forgot himself. We finally did it. He looked at Lu Yin excitedly. Alliance leader, we did it. We did it. Lu Yin's lips curled up and his eyes lit up like never before. Had they finally succeeded? He could imagine tens of thousands of soldiers wearing the new universal armor and protected by white smoke as they released attacks from the microarray. Who could imagine tens of thousands of Enlighter attacks sealed within microarrays? Not even the Astral Tree Society dared to imagine such a thing. They had many experts, but they couldn't gather tens of thousands of Enlighters at once. What a spectacular scene it would be. Tens of thousands? 100,000? Or even 1,000,000. It wasn't impossible for humans to resist the Eternals, but what was humanity's greatest advantage? Intelligence. Only with intelligence could there be creation. Microarray technology, new universal armor, white smoke and other things could be added such as poison. The more Lu Yin thought about it, the more excited he became. It was as if he had created a new era. If attacks could be contained within microarrays, then what about other things? Previously, he had the Aeon Evolution True Scripture which could create something out of nothing. Now, with microarray technology he could bring about a revolution for the entire human race. Lu Yin pressed down on the excited Wan Gong and stared at him. You've created a new era. Wan Gong's eyes widened and narrowed. A new era? Lu Yin's lips curled up. Work hard. Humanity's future is beautiful, and this universe will eventually belong to us humans. With our intelligence we can create anything and defeat all powerful enemies. Wan Gong nodded, but then he suddenly remembered something and half knelt. Thank you, Alliance Leader. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to create a new era. Lu Yin helped Wan Gong up as it was time for him to lay his cards on the table with Chairman Xi. Microarray technology didn't just belong to the Aurora Corporation. It belonged to the entire human race. Lu Yin wanted to popularize this technology and truly create a new era, one that would leave his name behind. However, even though this technology had been developed, there were still many problems that needed to be solved. The first problem was the lack of materials. Lu Yin didn't have much of the mother tree's bark, and even though a microarray didn't consume much bark, it was only enough to create 100 microarrays. He had to find a way to find more bark. Also, a microarray could only hold 4 attacks at most. What would he do once it was released? He hadn't considered this problem before. Lu Yin raised this issue with Wan Gong. Wan Gong replied, we just need to erase all traces of the previous array and ask Sir Formation Master Jian to rearrange it. Unless the microarray materials are damaged, it can be reused. Lu Yin asked a few more questions about microarray technology before finally asking, have you found out anything about the relationship between the Aurora Corporation and the Sirius sect? Chapter 1953. Wan Gong's expression changed at Lu Yin's words. Alliance Master, the Aurora Corporation has an unusual relationship with the Sirius sect. I saw someone in the microarray department. Lu Yin was curious. Wan Gong solemnly replied, Yuan Qiong. Lu Yin's expression changed. The Sirius sect master Yuan Qiong? Wan Gong nodded. I saw Yuan Qiong's image a few decades ago and there's no mistaking it. He's definitely the Sirius sect master. He came in secret and only a few people in the microarray department saw him. They were all core members of the department and I was one of them. If not for the fact that I couldn't communicate with the outside world, I probably wouldn't have seen him. Lu Yin subconsciously tapped the void and fell into deep thought. The Sirius sect master had actually secretly visited the Aurora Fort and appeared in the core microarray department. This was interesting. Is there anything else? Lu Yin asked. Wan Gong replied, nothing else. Mr. Xi was very respectful towards Yuan Qiong. Lu Yin nodded and told Wan Gong to go back and rest. He left the microarray department under the second Night King's lead and returned to his residence. Not long after Lu Yin left, Mr. Xi arrived at the microarray department. Wan Gong had been testing microarrays, so how could he hide them from Mr. Xi? However, Mr. Xi only knew that the experiment was a success because there were traces and a finished product. He didn't know how it had been successful or what battle technique had been used. Mr. Xi looked at the traces and was even more excited than Wan Gong. What material was that? Wan Gong replied, I don't know either. I wanted to rest but I couldn't sleep, so I came here to test it. I took out some random materials and didn't expect it to succeed. Mr. Xi ordered an inventory of all the materials in the microarray department. They had to find the materials needed to succeed. At that moment, a middle-aged man with a gloomy expression walked out of the void. Mr. Xi and the rest bowed when they saw him. Master Xian. This was the powerhouse with a power level of over 1,000,000 that the Aurora Corporation worshipped. He was also a formation master in Jiyuan. In the entire Aurora fort, even Mr. Xi was extremely respectful to this Master Xian and didn't dare to slight him. Master Xian's domain swept past the microarray department, and his gaze changed. Sword techniques. Mr. Xi looked at Wan Gong. Wan Gong's heart sank. At the same time, Master Xian looked at Wan Gong. The battle technique used to test microarrays is a sword technique. Have you ever learned a sword technique? Wan Gong respectfully replied, "Yes, I have." "Is that so? Let me see." Master Xian stared at Wan Gong. His gaze was imposing even though he wasn't angry. As an expert with a battle power of 1,000,000, his prestige wasn't something that an ordinary person could resist. Wan Gong gulped as he used his star energy to form a sword and slashed out. Grandmaster Xian's eyes turned cold. "How dare you lie to me?" Wan Gong jumped in fright and his legs went soft. Facing the might of an elite with a combat power of 1,000,000, he couldn't even stand steadily. Chairman Ji stared at Wan Gong, his eyes flashing coldly. "Wan Gong, our Aurora Cosmos ship company has treated you well. What have you done? Who was here earlier?" At this point, Chairman Ji frowned and couldn't help but look at Master Xian. Everyone knew the importance of the microarray department, so Master Xian wasn't far from here. How could anyone enter without Master Xian knowing? Suddenly, Chairman Ji thought of Lu Yin and the Second Leaf King. Master Xian thought of this at the same time. He looked at Ji Dong with an ugly expression. In the entire Aurora stronghold, only Lu Yin and the Second Night King could enter the microarray department without Master Xian knowing. At that moment, the void in front of them distorted as Lu Yin walked out with the Second Night King. He faced Chairman Ji. "Don't blame him. I told him not to speak." Lu Yin knew that he couldn't hide his microarray research from Chairman Ji, but he hadn't expected that real Liyuan's formation master to appear and sense the residual attack in the air. Chairman Ji clenched his fists and suppressed his anger. "Alliance Master Lu, I treated you as a guest, but you schemed against us?" Master Xian's eyes narrowed as he looked at the Second Night King. This person gave him a lot of pressure, but he was a formation master from Real Yuan and this was the Aurora stronghold. If they really fought, he might be able to put up a fight. The Second Night King looked at Grandmaster Xian with a cold glint in his eyes. Lu Yin laughed. "Without me, your so-called microarray research is just a joke. Wan Gong, tell your boss where your microarray research came from, and where did you help him break through his bottleneck?" Chairman Ji looked at Wan Gong. Wan Gong was apprehensive and his voice trembled as he said, "I originally had no clue about microarray research, but Alliance Master Lu showed me the finished product. That was how I found a way to break through my bottleneck and successfully created the finished product. Right, the materials were also provided by Alliance Master Lu." Chairman Ji was shocked. The materials and technology came from Alliance Master Lu? Wan Gong looked at Lu Yin and then nodded at Chairman Ji. "Yes." Chairman Ji frowned and looked at Lu Yin with a complicated expression. Lu Yin's lips curled up. "Chairman Ji, I told you before that you should be thanking me. Otherwise, it would be meaningless for you to throw so much money into this mess every year. Even if you have a breakthrough, it would be useless without the materials. I can guarantee that you won't be able to find any suitable materials in the entire Fifth Mainland. Only I have them." Chairman Ji sighed. "Alliance Master Lu, we should talk." The Aurora stronghold was more of a city than a stronghold. It was a civilization, and to the commoners who lived here, it was their own world. Chairman Ji brought Lu Yin to the largest waterfall north of the Aurora stronghold. There was a pavilion beneath the waterfall with a stone table and a pot of wine and side dishes. Only Chairman Ji and Lu Yin were there. Neither Master Xian nor the Second Night King had approached. Chairman Ji poured Lu Yin a cup of wine. "I don't like to drink, but I heard that Alliance Master Lu likes it, so I specially prepared some for you. Have a taste. This wine is produced by the Aurora stronghold." Lu Yin raised a hand to stop Chairman Ji from pouring more wine for him. "Actually, I don't like to drink either. I prefer tea to wine." Chairman Ji put down his cup and retrieved a teapot from his cosmic ring. Those who drink are emotional while those who drink are rational. Alliance Master Lu, this isn't the first day we've met, but this is the first time we've truly met. Lu Yin looked at the waterfall to the side. Yes, this is the first time we've truly met. The Aurora Corporation sends 1/10 of their annual profits to the microarray department without exception. If this massive amount of resources were used in the Innerverse, it would be enough to create a powerful organization that could rival the Blaze Realm or the Ross Empire. Chairman Ji looked at Lu Yin. If I'm not wrong, Wan Gong already joined Alliance Master Lu the last time you were here. Lu Yin nodded and didn't hide anything. That's right. Chairman Ji laughed. It's been almost 5 years and we didn't even notice. It's no wonder that Wan Gong made a breakthrough in microarray technology not long after Alliance Master Lu left. I'm very curious. I understand Wan Gong's character, so how did Alliance Master Lu convince him to join us in such a short time? He didn't hesitate to betray the Aurora Corporation. You should know that at that time Alliance Master Lu might not have been as powerful as the Aurora Corporation. Lu Yin reached out to take the teacup and swirled it around. No comment. Chairman Ji downed the tea in one gulp. Microarray technology is the Aurora Corporation's core secret. It can be said that the Aurora Corporation was founded because of microarray technology, and it was to research it that the Aurora Corporation was founded. Alliance Master Lu, you should understand its importance. Lu Yin didn't say anything and just listened quietly. Over the years, the Aurora Corporation's ancestors have invested an astronomical amount into microarray technology, and it wasn't until my generation that we succeeded. Alliance Master Lu, do you understand how I feel? My father's generation, my ancestors and countless resources have been invested, and now we're only one step away from success. Alliance Master Lu, what do you think I should do? Chairman Ji grew more and more agitated as he spoke. He stared at Lu Yin. If it were you, would you share this success with others? Lu Yin slammed his wine glass onto the stone table. Chairman Ji, if it weren't for me, even your grandchildren wouldn't have succeeded in their research. Then we'll wait. Chairman Ji shouted, the veins on his forehead bulging as he gritted his teeth. This is the fate of the Aurora Corporation. No matter how long it takes, no matter what price we have to pay, we must succeed. This success shouldn't be shared with outsiders, and it can't be shared with outsiders. Alliance Master Lu, you've gone too far. Lu Yin sighed and looked at Chairman Ji. I thought you were a rational person. Chairman Ji's eyes narrowed and his eyelids trembled. I am, which is why I've been discussing this with Alliance Master Lu. That's why I brought Alliance Master Lu here. No one else has ever come here, not even my son. Alliance Master Lu is the first. How are you going to do this? Lu Yin asked slowly. He didn't want to easily control the Aurora Corporation as microarray technology was their life. Lu Yin was already used to controlling other people's weaknesses, such as the 13 swords, the Ku families. When things reach an extreme, things move in the opposite direction. And the Wen families, when things reach an extreme, things move in the opposite direction. However, compared to the Ku family and the Wen family, the Aurora Corporation was different. They had never given up on microarray technology, and the Ku family had always thought that things could move in the opposite direction, but they had never been able to find any clues. Before Lu Yin had returned to this region of space, the Wen family hadn't even known that there were multiple literary prisons. The 13 swords were extremely important to the sword sect, but the sword sect had its own secrets as well. The only thing that was similar to the Aurora Corporation was the Tactician family, but the Tactician secret character was something that had been obtained through cultivation. The Tactician family didn't spend much time and resources to research it, and they didn't even know where to start. However, the Aurora Corporation was different. They had researched microarray technology for too many years and their obsession was too deep. This obsession could easily drive them crazy. Chairman Ji panted heavily. I forgot about microarray technology. I'm willing to compensate Alliance Master Lu with 80 billion star essence. Lu Yin's eyelids twitched and his eyes were filled with shock. 80 billion? Just how rich was the Aurora Corporation? They were offering 80 billion as soon as they opened their mouths. It had to be said that Lu Yin was moved by this amount. Who wouldn't be? 80 billion was enough to crush the sword sect's mountain. However, this amount of money was insignificant when compared to microarray technology. This was an epoch-making technology, and Lu Yin couldn't even imagine how far it could be developed in the future. Chapter 1954. About 5 years. I've been paying attention to microarray technology for the past 5 years, and half of the credit goes to me. Are you trying to get rid of me with 80 billion? Lu Yin asked. Zhidong replied, Alliance leader Lu, you should know what 80 billion means. Even the Mavis Bank wouldn't easily hand out 80 billion to someone else. Even our Aurora Corporation would be hard-pressed to fork out such a sum. We've been accumulating this for many years, and we're using it to buy Alliance leader Lu's help in microarray technology as well as the source of the materials. Lu Yin found this hilarious and laughed. Alliance leader Lu, what are you laughing at? Zhidong's tone grew deeper. Lu Yin rubbed his head. Do you think I'm stupid? Zhidong narrowed his eyes and his eyelids twitched even more violently. Microarray technology is an epoch-making technology. The more you research it, the more it can change the lives of humans and change this era. Do you think that 80 billion is enough to change an era? Lu Yin grinned at Zhidong. Zhidong took a deep breath. Looks like there's no room for discussion. Lu Yin's lips curled up. Your Aurora Fort can't deal with me. Why don't you tell Zhidong that I have a half-ancestor backing me? Zhidong closed his eyes and lowered his head, deep in thought. Lu Yin didn't disturb him. With his current strength, he didn't fear the Aurora Corporation at all. Even if the home of the gods joined in, it wouldn't matter. As long as a half-ancestor didn't interfere, he didn't care. Let's talk to someone else. Zhidong suddenly stood up and left. Lu Yin was stunned. So decisive? Talk to someone else? Was there someone in the Aurora Corporation who was more important than Zhidong? Could it be Master Xian? At that moment, Lu Yin felt a familiar aura. He looked up at the sky and his eyes flashed. Was that Elder Zhou Xian? At the same time, not far from the waterfall, the second Night King also saw Elder Zhou Xian. He was shocked. Why would someone from the Sirius sect appear here? Elder Zhou Xian stepped through the air and instantly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in the pavilion, looking at Lu Yin with a gloomy expression. His expression was as unhappy as it could be. Lu Yin recalled Wan Gong's words. Yuan Qiong had been here before. What was the relationship between the Aurora Corporation and the Sirius sect? Brat, you really are serious nemesis, Elder Zhou Xian gritted his teeth and said unhappily. Lu Yin's mouth twitched. Elder, what do you mean? I don't understand. Elder Zhou Xian snorted. Let's talk. Talk about what? Lu Yin didn't understand. Microarray technology, Elder Zhou Xian said unhappily. Lu Yin blinked. You know about it too? Kid, don't play dumb. Don't you know? Elder Zhou Xian glared at Lu Yin. It's just a guess, but I really don't know the specifics. What's the relationship between this company and the Sirius sect? Elder, please tell me. Elder Zhou Xian sighed. The Aurora Spaceship Company belongs to Sirius. Lu Yin's expression changed and he was shocked. Your property? Elder Zhou Xian raised his head proudly. What? You don't understand? Lu Yin had thought of many possibilities such as an alliance or a marriage alliance. He had even thought of paying the Celestial Star Sect for protection every year, but he had never thought that the Aurora Spaceship Company was the property of the Celestial Star Sect. An ancient sect and a technology company that stood at the forefront of the era. How could they not work together? Both were giants in the Neoverse. How is that possible? Lu Yin stared at Elder Zhou Xian, wondering if the old man was messing with him. Elder Zhou Xian rolled his eyes. What's so impossible about it? Of course, it's not the sole property of the Sirius sect. Everlasting Island also has a share. Everlasting Island also has a share. Lu Yin was truly shocked. Elder Zhou Xian glanced at Lu Yin, his eyes full of suspicion and disdain. Where do you think the resources of Everlasting Island came from? Did they rely on Heizage Leon to rob others? Or did they have ties with the astral cities? What's the use of that? Lu Yin suddenly recalled that although Everlasting Island had a half-ancestor overseeing it, he had never heard of them having any other property. At most, they had close ties with some astral cities, and their disciples could obtain some help when traveling the universe, but it was far from enough to support Everlasting Island's cultivation. For example, the Sirius sect had many disciples and occupied a part of the universe. Not only did they cultivate, but they also mined for resources. Some disciples were tasked with earning resources for the sect, and the Innerverse Sword sect and One family were the same. When they occupied a large flow zone, they would develop that flow zone's resources. The most famous example of this was when the Sword sect and the Day-Night clan fought over resources, and Lu Yin had taken advantage of this. However, there were only a few people on Everlasting Island, and no matter how powerful Heizage Invincible or Heizage Shenwei was, they would not go as far as to become someone's bodyguard. Lu Yin now knew that their resources actually came from the Aurora Corporation. Who would have thought that the Aurora Corporation, a giant in the Neoverse, was actually the source of income for the Sirius sect in Everlasting Island? What's going on? Lu Yin couldn't help but ask. Elder Zhou Xian replied, it's not that complicated. Back when the Sage Celestial Master was unlocking a source box, he came across some incomplete microarray technology. After some research, he and my senior decided to research it, but microarray technology was too expensive. It just so happened that he had obtained quite a few ancient technologies when he was unlocking the source box, such as energy conversion devices. These devices could be used on spacecraft, so the two of them worked together and formed the Aurora Corporation. No one else knows about this? Lu Yin was puzzled. Elder Zhou Xian recalled, back then they found someone called Zhi Xing who used to work for the Hall of Honor. He was the smartest and most famous scientist in the world. The two of them showed him the microarray technology and he immediately resigned and used his own name to form the Aurora Corporation. The Sirius sect supported him in the early stages and secretly protected him. Everlasting Island also provided protection, and just like that, the Aurora Corporation was formed. You could say that these three companies formed together to research microarray technology. Lu Yin nodded. He finally understood why Sirius art had appeared at the Aurora stronghold and why Yuan Qiong had personally come to see it. The microarray technology had come from the Sirius sect in Everlasting Island. You know what you need to know. Kid, let's talk. Elder Zhou Xian glanced at Lu Yin with displeasure. Lu Yin pursed his lips. Talk? What's there to talk about? We're all family, so there's nothing to talk about. Elder Zhou Xian raised his brows. Talk? Don't try to curry favor with us. I don't care about your relationship with Everlasting Island, but in the Sirius sect, you're just an outer disciple. Lu Yin was unhappy. Elder, an outer disciple is still a disciple. Why? Do you want to treat me differently? He then crossed his legs and swung them back and forth. Elder Zhou Xian's mouth twitched and he wanted to get angry, but this bastard's legs were too hard. The Zhi family has spent generations on microarray technology, and Zhi Xing died before he could reach the Enlighter realm. If not for this technology, he would have lived for at least a few thousand more years. Although Sirius sect is secretly protecting him, the Zhi family's contributions are insignificant compared to ours. Everlasting Island has only unearthed this technology and hasn't invested much in it. Microarray technology is everything to the Zhi family. Kid, don't mess around, Elder Zhou Xian warned. Lu Yin replied, Elder, do you have some sort of misunderstanding about me? I've never thought about stealing microarray technology. What else? Elder Zhou Xian glanced at him. He knew Lu Yin all too well, and he knew that it was impossible for him to not have good things in his hands. Lu Yin solemnly explained, this is an epoch-making technology, and if used properly, it can change the entire human society. If this was a peaceful time, I would definitely try to monopolize microarray technology and achieve great things. However, things are different now. The Sixth Mainland and the Astral Beast Domain are our enemies, and the Eternals are eyeing us covetously from the outside. Under these circumstances, using microarray technology to its fullest potential is the best outcome for humanity. If I monopolize microarray technology, I don't know how long it will take to change the human society. Perhaps the Eternals will invade and destroy us before we succeed. In the end, microarray technology will only benefit the Eternals. Elder Zhou Xian was astonished. You're still able to see the big picture. Lu Yin seriously replied, I won't steal or monopolize microarray technology, but it needs to be used first. At the same time, the Great Eastern Alliance can provide the greatest assistance to research microarray technology so that it can be developed and promoted. This should be the wish of the Elysian Heavenly Master and Elder Gong. Elder Zhou Xian nodded. That's right. From the very beginning, Senior and the Elysian Heavenly Master planned to promote microarray technology rather than monopolize it. However, promoting it is one thing, but anyone who uses it will have to pay a price. That's not going overboard. I know it's a patent. Lu Yin smiled. Elder Zhou Xian replied, it's fine as long as you understand the gist of it. He then waved a hand in the distance, calling Ji Dong over. Ji Dong arrived at the pavilion, but his expression was still not good. Elder Zhou Xian said, this kid doesn't plan on stealing the microarray technology, but he wants to have the priority to use it. Also, he paused for a moment before continuing, the success of this technology is inseparable from the help he provided. Once microarray technology is promoted and used by everyone, he can take 20% of the profits. Zhidong frowned and looked at Elder Zhou Xian before looking at Lu Yin. He nodded helplessly. I understand. Lu Yin found this funny. So you thought that I wanted to steal the microarray technology, Zhidong? Zhidong sulked. Everyone knows Alliance leader Lu's character. You can't blame me for thinking that. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. Pi character? Tell me about it. Zhidong wanted to say something, but after thinking about it he decided against it. Although the Aurora Corporation was backed by the Sirius sect and Everlasting Island, and they had powerhouses with power levels in the millions as well as realm origin array masters, they were still lacking when facing Lu Yin. Sirius sect's attitude towards Lu Yin was unclear, but they seemed to be very close to him. If he offended Lu Yin, Zhidong would not have an easy time in the future. Elder Zhou Xian impatiently said, all right, enough with the nonsense. Kid, you've schemed against him for 5 years. Can't he be a little resentful? Chapter 1955. Lu Yin smiled and stopped looking for trouble. Director Xi, do you remember the blueprint for the new universal armor that I showed you? Fuse the microarray technology with it. Director Xi's attention was quickly diverted. Fuse the microarray technology? Lu Yin answered seriously. The new universal armor will be fused with the smoke from Smokescreen Mountain Range and the microarray technology. I want to create an invincible army. You've been planning this since 5 years ago, Director Xi blurted out. Lu Yin casually replied, that's not for you to worry about. What you need to do now is create 80 microarrays for me and fuse them into the new universal armor. The battle techniques that will be fused into it are... He paused and looked at Director Xi. What's the highest level of attack that can be fused into it? Director Xi thought about it. Based on the current materials, the highest level of attack that can be unleashed 4 times is an Enlighter with a power level of 200,000. The cost is not low. Lu Yin replied, then lower it. Director Xi was stunned. He had thought that Lu Yin would want a higher price. Who would want a lower price? A hunter's attack? What's the point? Elder Zhou Xian did not understand. It's the lowest, Lu Yin answered. Director Xi was stunned. The lowest? Then he might as well do it himself. What was the point of having microarrays? Lu Yin naturally would not tell them that he could upgrade them with his die, but he would not be upgrading a complete microarray. In the past, Lu Yin had tried to upgrade the heaven-splitting array that he had obtained from Bai Xiaohong, but the heaven-splitting array contained a source box array, so there was no way to upgrade it. Thus he had left it at that. Now all he had to do was upgrade it before Grandmaster Xian set up the source box array. He would upgrade the materials to the level of an Enlighter or even higher, such as the heaven-splitting array that had the power of 2 origin tribulations. Then he could set up his own array which would be perfect. What's the highest level of attack that Master Xian can set up? Lu Yin looked at Director Xi expectantly. Director Xi replied, an Enlighter with a power level of around 200,000. Lu Yin was disappointed as it was too low. That meant that there was no need for him to upgrade the materials for his microarrays. No matter how high they were, it would be useless if the source box array could not be used in conjunction with it. Furthermore, the cost of upgrading the materials was about the same as the cost of the Aurora Corporation's production, or perhaps even higher. It was not worth it. In the end, it was still a problem with the source box array. Master Xian had spent so many years researching source box arrays, but unfortunately he could not research into the source box array within the heaven-splitting array. Forget it, regardless of whether he could research it or not, he would just give it to him. When he thought about this, he took out the splitting heaven array that he had obtained from the frigid Immortal sect's secret collection. There was still one more formation left. Give this to Grandmaster Xian for me. The source box array inside can withstand the power of 2 origin tribulations and it's quite terrifying. Chairman Ji's eyes narrowed and he snatched the book from Lu Yin's hands. Did Wan Gong make a breakthrough in his technology after seeing this? Lu Yin did not confirm or deny it. Make the microarrays according to your highest standards. Also, I hope that Master Xian can develop a source box array that contains a higher level of attack power. That will be effective against the Eternals. There's also this. Lu Yin handed the Mother Tree's bark over to Chairman Ji. Elder Zhou Xian was astonished. This is... Zhidong was excited. Is this the material? Lu Yin nodded. I should be able to create more than 100 microarrays, but I only need 80 of them. I won't ask you for the materials and I'll keep the rest for my own research. Feels like tree bark. Zhidong took it and was a little confused. Elder Zhou Xian gave Lu Yin a deep look. It will be difficult to find such a material even if you search the entire fifth mainland. Zhidong was astonished. Elder, you know about this material? Elder Zhou Xian was second only to Elder Gong, so it was not surprising that he knew about the mother tree's bark. Lu Yin replied, I'll think of a way. It's not impossible. Elder Zhou Xian shook his head. It'll be difficult. Alliance Master Lu, what is this material? Where is it produced? Our Aurora Corporation is spread throughout the universe, so we might be able to find it. Lu Yin smiled bitterly and was about to speak when he suddenly thought of something. He took out a stack of white paper. Chairman Ji, this material is tree bark and these white papers are also made from tree bark. See if they can be used. Zhidong was confused. Tree bark had already been made into paper, so how could it still be used? Try it. It might be useful, Lu Yin said. He had quite a few pieces of paper on him, especially in Mount Supreme. Long Shi and the others might have some as well. It would be great if they could be used. Zhidong was helpless and took the paper to Wan Gong. After Zhidong left, Elder Zhou Xian said, I never thought that the most important material would be the bark of the mother tree. Where did you get it? From the ruins of the frigid Immortal sect. Elder Zhou Xian continued, if there are ruins of the frigid Immortal sect, then the fifth mainland might not have them as well. We still have to look. That's unlikely, Lu Yin said as he waited for the results of the experiment. Half a day later, Lu Yin couldn't take it anymore. The two of them sat there in silence, feeling a little awkward. Elder, is the Sirius sect that close to Eternal Sky Island? They even share secrets. Elder Zhou Xian replied, Eternal Sky Island disciples can challenge the Sirius sect to become core disciples. Don't you think that's close? That's true. Sirius sect disciples can also use the bridge of Eternal Sky Island, Lu Yin said. Suddenly Lu Yin remembered something. Elder, what kind of existence is the Fog Ancestor? Elder Zhou Xian was astonished. Fog Ancestor? You mean the Smoke Ancestor? He used to be one of the 9 mountains and 8 seas, the Fog Ancestor. This information had been given to him by Maiden Exin. Fog Ancestor, Smoke Ancestor. Some call him the Smoke Ancestor while others call him the Fog Ancestor. Lu Yin said, the smoke on the bridge should be from the Fog Ancestor. Elder Zhou Xian replied, yes. Not much is known about the Smoke Ancestor. All we know is that he likes to create all sorts of smoke with mysterious effects. As for the reason, no one knows. The Smoke Ancestor inherited a trace of his power from the Smoke Ancestor, but it was only obtained by chance. The Smoke Ancestor has no successor. Lu Yin felt that it was a pity. After all, the Ancestor was one of the 9 mountains and 8 seas, and he wasn't an ordinary progenitor. Elder, do you know what power each of Progenitor Chen's 9 clones have? Elder Zhou Xian shook his head. Well, Elder, you should know that the 9 mountains and 8 seas really have an inheritance. Elder Zhou Xian was astonished. Really? Lu Yin was stunned. Elder, you really don't know? Elder Zhou Xian rolled his eyes. How would I know? Then do you know who the most powerful Eternals are? Well, have you heard of the human progenitor? You believe in such a legend? I do. We don't have anything in common. Elder, do you know? Lu Yin wanted to ask more, but Elder Zhou Xian grew impatient. All right. You know more than me. Skask. I'm leaving. He then left impatiently. Lu Yin was speechless. How did he cultivate in the first place? Master Yuan was right. This guy's realm might be high, but he could easily destroy his own people's confidence at critical moments. Not long after, Zhidong came looking for Lu Yin with an excited expression. Alliance Master Lu, it's a success. Lu Yin was delighted. It worked? Zhidong nodded. It worked, but it consumed a lot of energy. What are the specifics? Lu Yin hurriedly asked. Zhidong replied, 5. 5 sheets of white paper can replace 1 piece of bark for the microarray. 5 sheets? Lu Yin was shocked. These sheets of white paper could be made into anything, especially flying devices such as birds, beasts, or even spacecraft. Thus, each sheet was very large and was about the size of a complete piece of bark. 5 sheets were needed to replace just a tiny bit of bark. There's no other way. Although these sheets of white paper are made from bark, they can't be restored. We can only extract a portion of the material and fuse it together to form a new material. This new material isn't bark but something that can carry microarrays. It takes about 5 sheets of white paper to fuse into one microarray, Zhidong explained. He then looked at Lu Yin expectantly. Alliance Master Lu, how many of these sheets of white paper do you have? Lu Yin checked. About 200. Where did you get them? I picked them up. Zhidong choked, not knowing what to say. He couldn't force Lu Yin to tell him where the sheets of white paper had come from. He also wanted to know where the bark had come from, but Lu Yin wouldn't tell him. Lu Yin calculated. 130. Zhidong was confused. What? Lu Yin looked at Zhidong. I'll give you all the bark and paper in exchange for 130 microarrays. I'll install all of them into the new universal armor. Zhidong frowned. You want us to work for you? The extra bark and paper can be considered as payment. Without me, you won't be able to make any breakthroughs in your technology. Even if you succeed, you won't have the materials to manufacture it, and all your years of research will be wasted. I'll bring my own technology and materials for you to manufacture, so it's reasonable to consider the extra materials as payment, Lu Yin said. Zhidong hesitated. It sounded reasonable, but he still wanted to work for Lu Yin. He wanted to use money to buy out the technology and materials. You're still unwilling? Lu Yin raised a brow. If I remember correctly, your son doesn't seem to be focused on cultivation. Zhidong's expression changed and he glared at Lu Yin. What are you trying to do? Are you threatening me with my son? Lu Yin laughed. Relax, I'm not doing that. I'm just giving your son something to save his life. He then took out the life-extending butterfly and tossed it to Zhidong. Zhidong caught it, but his anger still hadn't subsided. He frowned at the butterfly and then his eyes widened. This is Hegu? Have you heard of the life-extending butterfly? Lu Yin smiled at Zhidong. Zhidong thought about it and guessed. The divine Gu dynasty's Gu that can extend one's life? The life-extending butterfly? Since Chairman Ji already knows, then I don't have to say anything more. Consider this your reward for your son. As long as he isn't killed on the spot twice, he'll be able to live. Is that sincere enough? Lu Yin asked. Zhidong muttered to himself for a moment before accepting the life-extending butterfly. The life-extending butterfly, the bark, and the paper are just the payment for manufacturing the microarrays. The payment for researching and manufacturing the new universal armor and integrating the smoke and microarrays into it will be calculated separately. Of course. Lu Yin smiled. He had money and he wanted to use it to exchange for countless new universal armors.